Yo, it's your boy Rush. I'm in the building promoting my side hustle, Rush Enterprise. If you're in the state of New Jersey, you need armed guards or unarmed guards, just hit me up on my business line, which is on the banner, and also my Instagram's on there too. Today I got two special guests. I got my boy Izzy Benz in the building, and also I got the one and only Chaotic Truth too. You heard? What up, Izzy, man? How yo?
Yo, I'm good, Rush. What's going on? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm feeling good, feeling great, man. I can't complain, man. Today, man, I kind of want to expound on, a few biblical prophecies along with the war that's attached to the, World War III that's getting ready to transpire. And I wanna get your feelings on that, on the war and the draft and all that. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yo, it's funny. It's interesting to me, you know what I'm saying, that they was talking about actually allowing women or selecting women in selective service. You know, that was a really interesting thing. It's not something that's concrete or going down, but just the mere fact that they're considering it is wild, right? But the fact that they're going to draft the brothers from 18 to 26 years old relatively soon, they're trying to pass that legislation. That's really telling, you know what I'm saying, about how soon we really could be facing this catastrophic, you know what I'm saying, these catastrophic events. We don't really have as much time as we think we do, you know what I mean? So that's really telling right there.
Word, word. And like I have a feeling that this draft may cause a civil war because a lot of people are expounding on the potential of because they just passed this bill for the draft or whatever. So it's looking like a lot of the parents are not eager to allow their kids to go to war for Biden, man. And I think that's just it's going to be a lot of bloodshed because of this, man. I mean, let me get your opinion on that. Like you think that's it could be a possibility that this might transpire into a civil war also too. At the same time, while we getting ready to make the transition to World War III.
I don't know. I hadn't really considered it from that perspective. You know what I'm saying? I got to kind of look into that a little bit more. I think that this might be the first time in a long time where the war is actually on our soil. You know what I'm saying? We haven't really had a war really on our soil, you know what I'm saying, in a long time. You know what I'm saying? Since the American Revolution, for real. I mean, you know what I'm saying, from an outside force coming in onto our soil. I mean, there was Pearl Harbor, but that's not, you know what I'm saying, that's not quite as catastrophic as what could be happening pretty soon. You know what I'm saying? So I think that I don't know. I at the same time, I don't think that's fighting for any president. I think that's fighting for your own freedom and for your own safety and for your own family. You know what I mean? So I think it's a matter of perspective and how people look at it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too. And it's just like it's like who would think that somebody who's bold enough to come to the states and bring it to us like that? But it's looking like Putin is ready for it, man. Like he's been you know kind of like letting us know what it is, man. And yeah, man. Russia's really definitely gonna take it to the next level, man. Like really, because just this morning today on the news. Ukraine got hit again, but this time, it was innocent bystanders that got hit, and they're saying like, yo, definitely America is gonna have to, pay for the repercussions of that, because I guess Ukraine is using our weapons to get busy out there, and Putin's definitely not a fan of that. I mean,
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I didn't know you could say that word on yo, I don't really talk about the people with their names, but I feel you on that. You know what I'm saying? I feel you on that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because it is a tumultuous situation out there. and it absolutely could spill over here at any given moment. I heard that they, that those troops are relatively close on the sea. From, yeah, so
Yeah, yeah. I know there's a few Russian warships at Cuba right now as we speak. So yeah, it's looking like it's going down, man. You know.
Yeah, my fault, man. I had to end that stream, man. Go ahead, Rush. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. You could chime in, chaotic man.
What are we
Like
talking about?
we're talking about the draft, man, and how the draft might potentially lead into a civil war and potentially Russia coming on our soil too. So, like, I want to get your perspective on that.
Are we talking about that first? Okay, I thought we were talking about biblical prophecies. Okay, first of all, Russia has never been an expansionist government. Pretty much, Russia has always been attacked. Uh, you could argue and say that somebody could say, "Well, what about Crimea or what about this?" Those were old Soviet states, so technically that's Russia. Other than that, Russia has really been a respecter of the sovereign territories of other nation states. And to prove this, Russia never had colonies, right? The people who had colonies are the. It's funny how history is, right? So we're taught that the Eastern Europeans are the bad Europeans, right? But they never had colonies. They never had colonies. They didn't have colonies in Africa. They didn't have colonies in South America. It was the Western European nation states, right? British, French, Belgium, whoever.
Dutch.
Yep, the Dutch, correct. And so Russia pretty much has, in my opinion, has been pretty much what's the word I'm looking for? Demonized by the media to create some sort of enemy, But really, Russia does not have any interest in, let alone coming to American soil, which, in my opinion, is damn near hard to get to this soil. You got two oceans separating. Us. Canada is a friendly nation, and let's be honest, man, Mexico, and they don't really have anything down there. And the reason why I believe that the draft is being the reason why, like, there are measures about selective service now is because there's low military recruitment. I think the only branch that has reached its enrollment or recruitment goal was the Marines. Other than that, the country does need to have measures to get people in. So I think now they are giving now women are have to sign up for selective service now. So no, Russia, no, hell no. And then you have
Well,
to think about
it's not.
go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's not yet though. They're putting it on the They were thinking about putting it on the Senate floor, but it's not even. They haven't even put it in the House yet, as far as women being in the selective service. I just read recently where it hasn't been pushed through yet. Now the young men from 18 to 26 has been pushed, but they're waiting for the Senate to go ahead and sign off on that.
Okay. Rush.
Yeah, yeah, I heard about that with the males from age 18 to 26, um, age age line for them to be drafted to get put in for war, and a lot of parents are saying that they're not going to let their kids go to war for Biden. They pretty much telling telling Biden, hey, if you want to go to war, you can use your own family for that. I mean, and I want to start off with some of the biblical prophecies, man. Like Joel, in the book of Joel, right? The book of Joel, chapter 20, from verses 30 to 31. It explains on how this will transition to a nuclear war. You know what I mean? Um, I'm paraphrasing, but it's not verbatim. But it says, darkness will take place, and the color of the moon will be blood red, and smokes and pillar, the smokes and pillar will, I guess, cause flames, and people will be consumed by the flames or whatever of the nuclear warheads, and that people that scream call upon the Lord's name will be delivered. Like I want to get your thoughts on that. Like, do you think this could um be a clairvoyant message that nuclear war will take place like soon, like around the corner?
Oh, you go ahead, Izzy. I'll wait.
I mean, I think that's inevitable, right? That's the prophecy that's being given, right? Inevitably, I'm not really familiar with Joel. I'm familiar with more of the New Testament, the Matthews, the Marks, and Revelations, right? I haven't been able to delve into Joel yet, but I know that it's Joel 2, 28 through 32 that refers to the scriptures that you're talking about, right? Um, but what I will say is this: I will say that I think that it is inevitable, ine- excuse me, inevitable in one shape, form, or fashion that it may enter into a nuclear war. But I just don't know when. I don't think that it's like around the corner, meaning like next year or the year after that. But I could see within the next 5 to 10 years where that's a strong possibility that that may occur. You know what I'm saying? As far as nuclear war. Um, it's crazy. I hope that someone said a joke like this. I hope that some outside forces intervene because I believe that there are outside forces, you know what I'm saying, stronger than us. So I hope that outside forces intervene because I don't I remember scripture. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but it talks about how the powers that be and the principalities are standing on the edge of existence, looking to us human beings to make a difference in a positive way, right? In essence is what it's saying. So I think that there's a vested interest beyond us, beyond human beings that want the world to continue and continue in a good way instead of being destroyed. So prayerfully something or someone will intervene to keep that from happening.
Now, Rush, what was the? Go ahead.
Word.
What did you say, Rush?
No, go ahead. You could go ahead and I guess expound on it too, because
You,
I
you
got a little lag going on my side.
well, ask the question again, Rush, so that people in the chat could.
Well, pretty much in the book of Joel, how I explained it described the nuclear war that's going to take place soon. I want to get your opinion on that certain verse that I explained earlier. Do you think it's actually describing nuclear war within for World War III that's about to come to pass?
Well, Rush, to be completely honest with you, man, I look at the Bible as more of a allegory. I look at the Bible more as uh options, right? So you can, in my opinion, right, you have an option to believe, you have an option to look at the Bible in absolutes, so do you absolutely believe that a serpent, a snake, was talking to a human being? Do you actually believe that a bush was on fire speaking? Do you actually believe that a man went throughout the planet and got every living organism to come on an ark? So you can look at it in terms of absolutism. That's fine. Look, you can look at the Bible as, I would say, what a lot of people do is they pick and choose. So a lot of people will never refer to the Old Testament, but they always talk about the New Testament. A lot of people who sort of like dissect the Bible to their own will. Then I believe that you can look at the Bible from the perspective of is the Bible some sort of extraterrestrial message? Is it telling you about actual? In my opinion, is the Bible telling you about technologies and beings from other planets? For example, there's a lot of individuals who believe that Jesus may have been an alien, and if you look at what he did or the accounts of Jesus, it does appear that he may have been an extraterrestrial, or he may have used or been using some sort of advanced technologies for what primitive humans like ourselves what we would perceive as miracles. I tend to look at the Bible as somewhat of a mixture of all the things that I just said, right? I tend to look at the Bible as a thing of a lot of allegory. So growing up, right, they'll tell you stories about Santa Claus, right? And they'll tell you better be good all year, or Santa Claus won't give you any gifts. Now, of course, a 4 or 5 year old will believe this horse shit. But when you get older, you understood that the imagery of of Santa Claus with gifts is profound to a kid because kids love little toys and trinkets. So I'm gonna be on my best behavior this whole year. I tend to believe that a lot of the Bible was to really keep people in order back in the day, right? Um, Now, were is there Abrahamic God? Sure, why not, right? But the fact of the matter is that the stories that we are told about all of these cataclysmic events, it may be stories to scare us. You know, it may be stories to scare us into believing a certain way, right? Um, I don't think, or I don't believe that we are on the cusp of World War III, because if we are, that's it. You know, we're going to go back into the Stone Ages, and I think that's a terrifying idea. So, if you look at the planet now compared to our ancient past, you would think that the planet is way better. You know, think about the Western Hemisphere. Think about the systems that we have in the West. You know, think about the institutions we have. You know, like think about the Western Hemisphere, right? You can't starve living in a Western country. You know, think about the security we have, the industry that we have, man. We are set here. And so I think that a lot of people who really believe in these ideas, uh, you know, they look at the Bible and they read it and say, oh, well, you know, I believe that this means this. Oh, maybe they're wrong. Maybe they are wrong. Maybe you know, maybe you're making yourself believe that we are on the cusp of some sort of great war, and maybe it's causing more harm than good because you're keeping yourself in a paranoid state, maybe. So me personally, I don't believe that we are on the cusp of World War III. I really believe we are on the cusp of becoming more advanced. You know, look at AI, look at the inroads into quantum computing now. I mean, I even watched a documentary the other day about scientists are working on enhancing age. You know, basically curing aging. You know, scientists are now looking at aging as a disease. So it seems like we're at the cusp of a lot of emerging technology.
Right, right. I think they figure out a way to elongate the telomeres, which telomeres allow your body to reproduce cells. When your
Yeah.
telomeres run out, it causes you uh, to cease all cell division, which will cause you to die, which I think is pretty interesting. And it's also written in the scriptures that people will be seeking for death but can't find it. Now, I mean, this could be possibly be another way or another form of, playing God and with science and all that. Now, I mean,
Hey, can I add on to that, Rush? I apologize. I had to give me a brief moment. I was trying to catch lunch real quick. My lady had just brought lunch in, so forgive me for the avatar for a
no,
moment.
it's all good, man. It's all good. Go ahead, chime in.
Yo, so I answer that question, based on what you asked. At the same time, I think is pretty pompous and arrogant for us to believe that a collapsing system cannot be at an end. Rome met a similar end and a similar fate. Now, it wasn't nuclear war, but it was the Visigoths and the Vandals that ultimately came through and destroyed Rome and took over Rome, right? As the great, quote unquote, great civilization as we allegedly known it to be. So the interesting thing is the dollar is not backed by anything. The dollar is not backed by gold. The dollar is not backed by silver, and it is collapsing in value by the minute. That was one of the falls of Rome and Greece. The fact that its monetary system collapsed. Beside that, as well as eloquently as my good friend Chaotic pointed out, their military system collapsed because they did in fact try to add women to the system. They did in fact didn't have the military might that they had because of the false, pompous, arrogant illusion of opulence and of elegance. They began to be lovers of themselves and lovers of their own invention, and so therefore their military might suffered as well. So their military might suffered. They added women to the equation, into the mix to fight. They their dollar collapsed as a result of it, and then ultimately they lost and were lost as a civilization. So it's not far fetched. We can leave the Bible out of it altogether, right? It's not far fetched to believe that a country that's 30 something trillion dollars in debt to another country, we don't even have to say the names, right? And that owes that type of money, that doesn't lead in exports, that leads in imports, that doesn't have a strong infrastructure as far as creating steel and creating the things that it used to create and export out, and doesn't have the military might that it used to because of lack of enrollment, so forth and so on. It's not so far-fetched to believe that all of a sudden we as America cannot be taken over. That's not far-fetched. We could leave the Bible out of it, right? Because the Bible and Santa Claus really don't have anything to do with each other, right? The Bible and the Easter Bunny has nothing to do with each other. And yes, some parts of the Bible are allegorically speaking, but we could also point to some events that actually happened in history that are noted in the Bible. Besides that, we could point to geographical locations that are actual factual. You know what I'm saying? If you go and you look around. So when you say that, it sounds good. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe a Terminator movie or something like that. But at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is it absolutely can happen. And it absolutely is. We are absolutely on the brink of something different than what we've known.
Word, and yo, it's funny that you mentioned Rome because are you familiar of uh Daniel? Daniel that was linked up with King Nebuchadnezzar. Is
Talking
he?
about Daniel from the Lion's Den. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
story
yeah, him. Yeah, Daniel
with
from the Lions.
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You talking about that
Yeah, yeah,
Daniel?
yeah, that Daniel. I'm quite sure you're familiar with how he linked up with Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar had a bunch of wise men, right? And obviously Daniel was a part of the wise men with his two friends, and the king had a prophetic dream, right? He knew the dream was important, but he forgot the dream, so he started spazzing, right? And as he's spazzing out on, his council, whatever, they like, yo, man, you need to go highlight your wise men. So he went to go highlight their wise men or whatever. None of them could figure out what he was dreaming about, right? Fast forward, right? Um, the king Nebuchadnezzar was getting ready to body all his wise men. He's like, yo, listen, man, I'm paying y'all for no reason since y'all can't tell me what my dream was. I'm gonna body you. So that's when Daniel came in the mix. He was like, yo, nah, you don't need to body nobody. I'm gonna figure it out. Just give me a couple of days so I can pray and fast and talk to my God about it. Fast forward, he did the process of praying and fasting. He got the information right. Now, when he got his revelation from the Most High, right? The Most High was used a statue, the head, I think the head was the gold statue, which represents Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom. Um, and then it talked about the breastplate, the bronze and metal breastplate represents the kingdom of what's his name, man? I forgot his name. I think Cyprus. Cyprus, and then the legs represent the kingdom of Rome, right? But see, the thing is that kingdom split up the rest of the kingdoms from Nebuchadnezzar joint and the Cyprus joint, and then when it got to the 10 feet, the 10 feet represents the Europe's kingdom or whatever. And it's just so funny that Daniel predicted. Go ahead, chaotic.
Yeah, I wanted to say this real quick. Rome technically never failed. Now, I'm going to say this real quick. Let's look at the actual city itself of Rome. If you really look at it, it really is an open air museum. It's still filled with, remnants of ancient Rome. Like it's architectural, what we would consider wonders, right? So the Colosseum of Rome, the Pantheon, the Roman Forum, the Palatine Hill. And if you sit back and think about it, if Rome would have been truly destroyed, all of its antiquity would have been destroyed. Think about this. When speaking of Roman or the Roman Empire and its antiquity, its ruins, right? You still have like bathhouses and theaters and all types of antiquity all across the Mediterranean right now. When you think about Rome, and in terms of the reason why I don't believe it ever really failed, is just think about the Romance languages, right? So think about what are the Romance languages, like Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian. They all descended from Latin, right? And the Romance languages are spoken by millions of people all over the planet, and that is just a fact, right? If you just think about even like our civil law system, right? It's based on Roman law. It's based on it's really literally based on what they used to do.
No, it's not.
Well, just hang on. You because I'm always quiet when people are talking, right?
I got
quiet.
you.
Give me a second.
Yes, sir. You know better than that, though. Chaotic.
Okay,
Come on.
just hear me out. Hear me out, and think about like even governance, like republicanism. I mean, the concept of the republic literally came from Rome. It came the government and its elected officials or representatives. That's a part we still do that now, and that came from ancient Rome. And if you just look at it, even Western culture, right?
Nah, when you're talking about laws, it's my bad.
No. Just hear me out.
Yeah.
One thing I like to do is I love to, if I go into an art museum, like one art museum is the Cleveland Museum of Art, which is I think it's in the top 10 on the planet. Man, they have colossal columns, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian columns. That comes from literally ancient Rome, like a lot of old world architecture, from the 1800s on up, which was built. They styled a lot of these buildings after the buildings in ancient Rome. So Rome, to a degree, yeah, I get it. It doesn't exist the way that it did, 3,000 years ago. But there are still remnants of Rome right now, how we operate as human beings. And I got to rock with Imperius on this one. Even the Catholic Church, to a degree, that is a institution that came from Rome. If you sit back and think about it, that's a institute, like literally the institution itself. Now, the religion, that could be argued that's probably Middle Eastern. But the institution of Catholicism, that's Rome. Go ahead, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, now when you're speaking about laws, like in court system and stuff like that, a lot of those laws stem from it stems from a king from the Middle East. I forgot his name, but he kind of like created the not infrastructure, but created a system of law, right? Fast forward, England adopted those traits, right? And then from England, the United States copied the style of the law system from England. But England got their joint from a dude, a king from the Middle East or whatever, not Rome. But Rome really kind of copied everything from Egypt, you know, well, from Greece, and
Right.
then yeah, Greece copied everything from Egypt, and then
Yes.
Rome copied everything from Greece. So technically, it stems from a king from the middle. I forgot his name,
It's
but
not. It's not. It's not even that, brother. It's the Hermetic. It's Hermetic principles and the orders of Mayat. Like that's really what it comes down to. Even the symbolism. You see what I got right here. You can see a lot of the same symbolism on my dag. That's on my daggone avatar in the court system, around the court system, and everything. From come on, man. We all know. We all know that, you know what I'm saying, it's Masonic, and we all know where masonry come from. Like, let's stop playing. So when you try to say that it's based out of Greece or out of Rome, that's not actual facts. The actual facts is they got it from the Kemetic mystery systems. They got it from the Egyptians. They got it from Africa. And that's where those systems are. That's what it is, right? Now, it's interesting, Chaotic, that you say that Rome still exists because the Catholic Church is still in existence. And you are one of the main people that talk about how Africa, for lack of better diction or terminology, ain't shit. But the truth of the matter is Africa still has all the remnants of the past existence. Even if you go to ancient Kemet, Akabu land, you go to you know what I'm saying, you go to Egypt or whatever the case may be, we still see the Sphinx with his blown off nose. We still see the pyramids. We still see all of the glory of antiquity that the Nubians created. So it's interesting that you refer to Rome as still being a power or still being in existence because they have a broke down Colosseum for you to refer to, or you know what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. And then you refer to the Roman Catholic Church as the remnant of Rome, when you know, and I know good and God doggone well, when Rome was in power, it was before Jesus was even crucified. So you know that there wasn't no daggone Roman Catholic Church. Like, stop playing. Like, let's stop playing. Like, what happened? Who was the people that gave the orders, or who were regulating the orders for the king of the time to sanction the alleged crucifixion of Christ? Let's be honest, man. So there was no Roman Catholic Church at that time. The antiquity, the Rome of Marcus Aurelius, the Rome of Caesar, the Rome of the greats that you talk about and you speak about, you know that history predates the Roman Catholic Church, and you know that the destruction of that history was way before a Roman Catholic Church was brought into place. So stop playing, man.
Well, I made it clear. I made it clear that Christianity came from the Middle East. I literally made that clear. I said, in terms of an institution, the Catholic Church is another hallmark of the Roman Empire. I never said the Catholic Church came before Christianity. I never said that. I said, I made an emphasis of saying the institution, meaning it's education, it's everything under it, right? So education, hospitals, it's philanthropic, it's philanthropy. What do they call it when you go to other places? I can't even think of the word. God damn it, I can't even think of the words.
The
But
conquering?
no, not okay. You could use conquering, so I give you that.
But
But
yo,
what do they call it when you go to other places, like those people who help other people? Oh,
missionaries.
missionary work.
Yeah, the conquering,
It's
allegedly the
it's
conquering. Go back to
well, it's
conquering
fun.
when you say that.
It's funding of the artists, theaters. I was just literally talking about the institution.
Impervious. You can't. Impervious is talking about educated me. He's talking about Constantine and the Roman Catholic Church and the Crusade family. Do you understand how far Rome had already fell? So far that the Rome of antiquity, the mighty Rome, had already fell by then, fam. So you can't educate me to anything if you think that I'm an idiot because I said that the Roman Catholic Church is not the might of Rome of antiquity. The Roman Catholic Church did not exist when the Rome was a superpower, fam. Why don't you understand that? But I digress. My mic is muted.
Um, Hello everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What up? What up? What up?
Oh, I think I got feedback, but I wanted to say because I just came in and I was listening, but I think I missed a little bit of what you guys were saying. Um, Izzy, I'm not saying that what you're saying doesn't have a basis, right? It has a basis. However, the base of a thing is not the thing. You see what I'm saying? Like your basement in your house is not your house. Like in terms of what the truth of the matter is. Like you have a basis, sure, but there's other things that you have to consider for the overall argument to make sense. When you say who sanctioned this or that within the ancient world, I would ask you who sanctioned the commercial exploration of slavery in the 1400s of Africa. It was the Crown of Spain, which was the seat, basically the hand of the papacy at the Vatican. So it's like, and truth be told, even though that happened in the 1400s, we're still feeling the effects of it today. That was a system, not a culture. That was a system that was put in place no matter how it started, no matter what its basis came out of. That was a system that was put in place. The Rome itself had its own religion that was sanctioned, and then Rome decided to sanction Christianity at the expense of some business ventures. So therefore, Rome essentially said, you know what, we're accepting Christianity and we're accepting it our way and we're going to call the shots. And that's exactly what goes on to this day. We can see how their leaders can be literal criminals, and there is no ramifications for being a criminal if you are a part of the papacy, especially at the Vatican. Like there is no punishment for you. So these people, this institution is higher than any presidency or kingship in the world. As much as you say, well, they may not have as much influence, their real influence comes from their secrecy in how they influence governments, and not just influence governments, but nothing happens without their approval, whether you see it or don't, whether it meets the news or not. The Vatican is a country. Most people don't know that. Like the church is a country. They have their own licenses for that little section of the world. I don't even know how big it is. I don't know if it's big as a football stadium, honestly. Might be, but they have their own licenses, like commercial IDs that they turn in when they move from different countries or travel or whatever the case may be. They do. So the influence of that institution is something that's not, let's say, in the public eye. Let's say like, the US presidency, right? That's a public figure. Everybody knows that person. It's a commercial person even, right? But the real truth of power is not at the seat of the Western presidency. Like that's not what this is. Not in no way, shape, form, or fashion. To the point of Africa still holding the oldest relics. I'm gonna be honest with you. You might get off one or two monuments that are still in Africa, right? And this is not to take away from Africa. Africa to me is like my great grandmother's house. You see what I'm saying? Not my grandmother, but my great grandmother's house. However, the the important relics are in the basement in the Vatican. The important relics of books that were written by our people have a, what is it, a 30-year, I'm sorry, 200-year span on the document itself, meaning the document cannot be read except for after 200 years after the death of the author. That's how the Vatican allows information out based on who they want to read it and when. And they have a 200-year minimum on when you can read certain things that comes out of that basement that is on lock and key 24 hours a day. And I mean, it's one of the most secure places in the world. Now, why do you think most of the African relics are in the basement at the Vatican? So it's like, truth be told, when you want to talk about power, you have to say a word straight. I mean, I know Chaotic may have some controversial ideas and statements about African people, the continent itself, the culture. However, when we talk about power in the world, let's be honest, it is
Wasn't
where it's at,
that
regardless of
wasn't the
how we
topic?
got there.
That wasn't the topic of conversation. I'm hearing feedback.
I understand that's not the
I'm hearing.
topic.
So the topic of conversation was about ancient Rome falling, and it's an actual fact, a documented fact that ancient Rome fell, it collapsed. So if you want to then talk about Christianity and the Catholic Church and the spread of Catholicism throughout the New World and throughout Europe and so forth and so on, and Constantine and trying to rule by might through Christianity, that's a whole different conversation than the original conversation that we was having.
I got you.
So hold on real quick. So Chaotic tried to, miserably failed, by the way, tried to sit and make a correlation between ancient Rome of antiquity, is what he is actually his actual words. So when you're talking about Constantine and you're talking about a whole different era of Rome, he mentioned the Colosseums. That's not Constantine. See, when you're speaking, you have to speak in actual facts, right? The Colosseum is not Constantine. The Colosseum was long tore down before Constantine came to rule, right? And when you're talking about antiquity, that's not considered Constantine, because like you said, and like I agree with you, that's the modern era. When you start talking about Catholicism, when you start talking about the spread of Catholicism, when you start to speak about the Vatican, the church, whatever the case may be. And we know at the end of the day, the reason why those secrets are so guarded is the thing that Chaotic Truth doesn't understand. That at the end of it, if you was able to get in that basement, you would never ever speak against a black man a day in your life. You would understand that the greatest secret that they're guarding is that you are the closest thing to God that walks on this earth. That's the greatest secret that they're guarding. They have a black Madonna. They have a black, you know what I'm saying? A black Christ, a black Madonna, a black baby Jesus. You know what I'm saying? That's in there. They have a whole bunch of things in there that would actually tell you. And that's why, Miss Oshun, that those artifacts are there in the Vatican. I give you that. The artifacts are in the Vatican, but they couldn't take the structures. They didn't take the structures with them to the Vatican. They took the books, they took the artifacts, they took the relics. That's a fact, but they could not take the structures. And those structures predate anything that is anything in Rome. It predates it by thousands, if not millions of years. So that's what the actual facts is. He was talking about antiquity. He brought up the Colosseums. What was the other thing that you brought up? The aqueduct, or what was the other thing you brought up, brother?
I believe the columns.
No, not the columns, but the other thing. Well, it's another famous antiquitous thing that I forgot that you brought up.
Oh, the Pantheon.
The Pantheon, right. So if you do your research, Miss Oshun, you know that predates Constantine by hundreds, if not thousands of years.
I'm not taking that away from you in terms of the timeline. However, and I'm not, and Chaotic can speak for himself. When we talk about Constantine, Constantine is a ruler of many rulers. Okay, he represents a lineage. He represents a culture. He represents an institution that allowed him to exist in the way we know him today. So when we're talking about ancient Rome and then we're juxtapositioning that to the papacy or the Vatican, we're not talking about the country itself or the culture, like the physical countryside and the city states that made up what we understand as, let's say, ancient Rome, all the way around Europe and North Africa and the inside of the Middle East. That's not necessarily what we're talking about. The seat of power isn't necessarily that, because, for instance, America can collapse tomorrow, but American influence and American control over other countries have nothing to do with if we have pandemonium in our cities. It just doesn't. So there is a line of delineation there between what we're talking about in terms of ancient Rome, what we understand, and power itself, the seat of power. Like
Right.
I'm not taking away from your point, but there's a slight, even if it's, even
But we
if
weren't
it's
talking about that. So I was addressing Chaotic in his specific points. Now, Impervious said there were no books. Now, that speaks to your ignorance. There were no books, but yet and still, Aristotle is coined to have written 700 books in less than a 15-year time frame. Yeah, right. There were no books, but yet and still, Alexander the Greek sacked the temples of Alexandria and Thebes, and yet and still burnt down the libraries, but there were no books. Come on, fam. Like, yo, your ignorance impervious is ludicrous and asinine. The fact that you said that there are no books and you think that you could challenge me is ridiculous. I don't even need to have a conversation with you if you're saying that there were no books in ancient Kemet. What are you talking about? They wrote on the walls. They were the first ones to have a written language system. So it's going to be the Phoenicians, but actually it was the Egyptians. So what are we talking about? There were no books. There were no books. But yet and still, right after Ptolemy took over for Alexander the Greek, his homeboy Aristotle came up with 700 books, but there were no books. Oh, okay. You're right. There were no books.
I think he may be referring to the fact that whatever books that were there, a lot of them were destroyed in the fire. Like, we know that through war that happens, but what was saved is not currently in Africa right now. But
No,
there's a lot of
in the vote, like you said.
yeah, it's in the Vatican, but the truth of the matter is, even with it being in the Vatican, when we talk about books, right, we think of, like, for instance, English is a language, right? There's books written in English. We have books in every corner of the world. You can pick up fine books everywhere. Versus when we go to Africa, for instance, we don't see that same culture of writing system just everywhere. But I would argue that there's a history in Africa that's not quite understood that may explain why you may find books, let's say in what is it, Timbuktu maybe, or in some of these more ancient places, but you don't see them everywhere. There's a reason for that, but we may not be aware of it. We just are aware of the little bit of history that was saved through the European conquest. So I understand why he's saying that, even though he is wrong, but I understand why he's saying that.
It's a statement based in ignorance, though, and he thinks that he has wisdom, and he does not.
Well, I mean, we all could, I guess, come to a collective conclusion that uh, when it comes to like Catholicism, Catholic or whatever, as they were bodying people for not following their own protocol, it was Constantine that made, I guess, Christianity legal at that time, because back then, if you practice any other religion other than Catholic, you would get bodied for that. I mean,
Are you sure it was Catholicism, or was that during the time when Catholicism was being formed as a religion from the Roman religion? Because at some point, Christianity was a like a heretic labeled religion. It was like a religion of the countryside that wasn't sanctioned. So when it was sanctioned, we know that was a political move to save the country. Um, are we talking about that, or are we saying that when, like, at what point are we speaking of?
I guess from that timeline you just expound on, that and also the Spanish Inquisition. I mean, you know, because when the Spanish Inquisition was doing their thing at that timeline or whatever, like, yo, you would get tortured for not following a protocol. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, I'll say this, right, and it's not to say anything that happened during the Spanish conquest or any other conquest where other people were being deleted is correct. However, the idea is you control the mind, not the body. Try to control the body, you'll spend more money trying to control that, because the body will naturally resist. When you control the mind, it comes free. So that existed even in ancient Africa. You wasn't a part of no tribe and felt like you was going to follow your own religion. That never happened there. That's not how it went down. You were a part of the religious order by birthright and or by association. So we don't hear about those stories, but there you can go to Africa today and see how segregated people are down to these lines, and it's very hard. What we're not used to here in the West. So we might hear more about the European way of how they control their population in terms of religious beliefs, and thus how it translates in the culture. But there was other people doing the same thing. It just maybe didn't look like Alexander and his bullshit, and other people similar to them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess within that sense, yeah, you know, um, but I want to get back into the original subject matter on some of these biblical prophecies expounds on World War III. For example, in the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, verse 12, it it explains on how the Lord smites thee and all the people that fought against Jerusalem, and that their flesh was consumed away. You know what I mean? That is to me, that's a clear indication that, it's expounding on, World War III with nuclear warheads, man. Let's expound on this, man. Like, what's your thoughts on that, CT, man? I know you think it's an allegory story, but man, I mean, there's plenty of angles that it gives you a clairvoyant message, man. On, I mean, World War III, man. Talk to me, man.
Again, again, I'm not denying the God of Abraham. I'm not denying even the Bible per se. But again, I look at the Bible as an allegory. I look at it as any story that has fantastical events, like how we watch a movie to a degree. If society were to collapse and somehow there was a video recording of Infinity War, and human beings 1,000 years saw that, they may believe that a man named Thanos really came from, like, if society had cut off from history, they may, well, give me a second real quick, they may look at Thanos as the devil, and they may literally look at the Avengers as almost like God like characters. And oh man, wow, we found this video from it's an ancient recording that must have happened. So it's very it's likely to us, in my opinion. I'm to the belief that we don't know anything. We're just apes living on a floating water bubble in infinity. And I really believe that there's more to the universe than what meets the eye. I mean, I believe that the universe is one magical and mysterious motherfucker. And I believe that whatever is revealed to us will really be profound. I just believe that the Bible is, I don't know, like I said, just allegory. So you could look at stories in the Bible and say, oh yeah, this story right here, Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, right now we have everything that's going on in Sodom and Gomorrah is happening right now in America, and God's gonna do the same thing. It's possible if it's possible, or maybe Sodom and Gomorrah was just a damn story. So the thing.
I apologize. I apologize.
Was
Go
it
ahead.
done?
No. Go ahead. I wanted to ask you a question. Go ahead. I
No,
apologize. Go ahead.
so no, you good. You good. So I just believe that a lot of times people who read the Bible, they read it in an absolute, and they live their life in fear or in some sort of doomsday, like always in fear or something. And maybe that's what whoever intended, maybe the authors of the Bible, which were many people, maybe they intended that for some reason. Maybe they intended that so that you can be void or void of the actual truth. Maybe the actual truth is just to love people, man. Love your life, love existing, instead of always being in fear stuff. And I believe the news does a great job at that, always keeping you in fear. Always making you think something's gonna happen, but then you walk outside, you see hummingbirds and butterflies, and it's a nice day. I'm like, where are these wars at? So the thing is that maybe the Bible is like that to a degree. Not to say that the Bible is incorrect or it's not real, but maybe the Bible is like that to a degree. Maybe we should look at the Bible with a deep understanding and really study it and just say, Like, for example, I'm about to land my plane real quick. Jenny Rush, you know who Jenny is. I was talking to her and I was telling her of the story about Jesus. Remember the story? It was Jesus and the man who was real crazy. I can't think of the name of the story, but it was Jesus and the man who was real crazy. The townspeople put the nigga in chains, and he kept getting out the chains, and
it was Jesus, the man that was possessed by Legion.
Yeah, Legion, right? And so maybe that story is just really telling people to say, maybe and I told Jenny this. I said maybe that story is just a story of how to show compassion even to the people who are so messed up that you wouldn't even think that they could even be saved. Maybe that's what that story is about. Or I get another story. Jesus on the boat when they woke Jesus up to calm the storm. You know that story, Rush. You know that story, right? Maybe the storm
Yeah, yeah, I
was
know the story.
and he said be still or something to the storm. Well, maybe it was just them niggas on the boat acting a fool, probably arguing over nothing. And Jesus said, "You guys are arguing over nothing, creating disorder out of nothing. Maybe you should just be peaceful with each other." And everything that you're talking about is so minuscule to the grand scheme of things that you're gonna kill each other over jokes or over whatever the niggas were. I think that's what the story was really about. So again, I don't look at things in absolutes. I look at things as interpretations. But go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now that's a good thing, right? I can't argue with you about some of the Bible is absolutely allegorical, right? But what if I told you that there are people right now that walk among us who could speak to the storm right now and who could quiet the storm right now? What there are men who could speak to the storm and quiet the storm. What if I told you that? And then what if I told you I've seen them do it multiple times?
And I would have no other choice but to believe you. But I would also ask you,
Mhm.
can they duplicate that? Can they duplicate that?
Meaning, can they have somebody else to do it?
Yeah, like for example, if I were to see a tornado, are you telling me that this person can say, "Stop, tornado, stop"?
Now, I've never told the tornado to stop, but I've stopped the rain multiple times. I've never told the tornado to stop.
Okay.
I've never eyewitnessed a tornado, but I've commanded the storm to stop on multiple occasions. But let me just say this. It might be a thing of belief. It might be a thing of belief. It might be a thing of you know what I'm saying, of I don't know, but it might be a thing of belief that my belief is such that I believed when it said that I could say to the storm, cease, and it thou shall cease. And it happened. I believed when it said, if I pray that things can happen, and it happened. Maybe it's a belief. Maybe it's a placebo effect. I'll give you that, right? At the same time, what I want to ask you is, if that's the case, right? If the case is that it's all allegorical, how come that it refers to actual geographical locations within the Bible, right? There are actual geographical locations that exist today. How come it refers to actual historic events, even though I don't believe it's a history book, but it refers to actual historic events that happen, and it refers to actual kings and actual people who ruled in real life. Like, these people actually existed. So if it's completely allegorical, how come it refers to those things?
Can
How come it refers to that?
Izzy, can I ask you a question before anyone answers that? Is there any place in the Bible where the Bible says that it is an allegory?
Is there any place in the Bible where it refers to itself as an allegory? Not that I'm aware of. But Jesus spoke in parables, which depending on how you interpret it, some people can interpret that as allegorical, right? Jesus spoke in parables, and he told his disciples that he spoke in parables. So,
Well, I agree with you on that. I think Jesus understood how the human brain works, and he spoke to people where they were at. That is something that most speakers that know anything understand. No matter how intelligent you are, your true intelligence is how you can relay said information to your audience, no matter what that audience is. That's where we can see your level of intelligence. However, I think, and I could be wrong, but in the book of Galatians, there may be I know it's in the Old Testament. I'm not sure of the book, but there should be, yeah, Galatians 4:24. I'll be honest with you. An allegory can involve actual places. I can give you an allegory that involves everything that we know of with fake people. to tell you a story to teach you a lesson. I can say, well, one day my aunt went to the mall here in, Baltimore, and she pulled out her purse and looked in and looked up, and she seen a cut rate, and the cut rate said, and it's like these are things that actually you can find in our culture, but it's not an actual story. Just like with Jesus or Yahshua, however people want to say his name. He's told actual stories that make sense, right? And I'm sure those aren't even the only stories he's told. But the point is, he is not trying to draw your attention to the realness of it, but rather the point of it, not the realness of it. And in the Bible, right? Keep in mind, the Bible is an amalgamation of books written over a long period of time by different people who had different imperatives. And there's been too many documentaries recorded on the Bible, and how we can see that different writers write from different perspectives with different imperatives. So, I don't really perceive the Old Testament as being strictly allegorical. Not strictly, but for instance, like certain characters, I do believe, like for instance, the guy who got all his children killed, deleted, and he lost his wife and his sheep.
Talking about Job? You talking about Job?
Yeah, Job. I'm not sure Job is a real person, but I think the story is real in everybody's life. I do. It proves itself over and over and over again. That story doesn't have to be real. In fact, nothing in the Bible seeks to prove that guy is real to you. It just doesn't. And even if the book of Job mentioned a place where you could find someone, right? It's not concerned with, well, is that place real? It could be talking about Neverland. The point is the story. So, I think sometimes when people, take the Bible too literally, they lose the point in it. Like, I know for me, when I read the first Genesis, I don't see what other people see. People see Eve as being evil and Adam as being a simp. So I've heard that. I've heard a lot of things, but stop laughing, bro. I've heard a lot, but when I read that story, I find it to be the greatest love story of all. Like, I do. I know it's not the first story ever told, but I don't see it the same way other people see it, because I'm not reading it under the same context. Same book, different context to me. I can explain that, but again, that's how my eyes see it. So, I think sometimes we're just bred to see things a certain way from the Bible. And it's not to say that the Bible isn't true. It might be true with all allegories, or it might be all legitimately historical, but the point is not the historicity of it. It's the point of the parable of it, which is why, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe Jesus really ever really quoted stories a lot from the Old Testament that I'm sure he was aware of. I don't think none of his sermons really had much to do with his ancestors.
Well, that's not actual facts, right? You got feedback.
Say again.
You got feedback. Yo, that's not actual facts, right? So there's a reason why in the Bible they went through extreme lengths to talk about the lineage, the father of Methuselah, the father of Enoch, the father of such and such who lived the father of. There's a reason why they went through the lineage. It's an absolute reason why they did that. Why they went through painstaking, long drawn out reasons. Right? There's a reason why some of these places actually exist. Now, I'm not a person. I could agree with you, Miss Oshun, to a large degree of the point of the Bible is not a hysterectomy, right? It's not to be a daggone historical reference or book. And I was trying to be funny. That was a joke. But yeah, but it's not a historical reference book. I'm on record by saying that, right? It's not, that's not the point. The point is to learn lessons, kind of like Aesop's fables, right? To learn lessons, to get life lessons, to get better, right? However, the thing again that we was talking about is to say, is it a whimsical fairy tale book? No, I don't think that it is. It's actually based in actual places. It's actually based with some historical reference, actual people who actually existed. So I think that does give some merit, right? Some merit and some credence. Although we know about the Council of Nicaea, we know about the Epimeral Council, we understand about the books that were taken out, allegedly, the Apocrypha, you know what I'm saying, the Book of Barnabas, the Book of Enoch. We understand about all of that, right? We overstand it, right? But what I'm saying is this, I'm talking about if you have a book that has references to people who actually historically did live, reference to geographical locations that actually still are here to this day, then you have to give it somewhat of a credence and somewhat of, you can't just dismiss it as a whimsical fairy tale story of fancy, right? That's my only point that I was making. And that's why I was asking Chaotic if he realized that there are actual places and actual people that have been confirmed from the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. So Seinfeld takes place in New York. They've actually gone on streets that are actually exist. They've actually made references to institutions that actually exist. I mean, at least a dozen times in Seinfeld, they've mentioned the Yankees. I think George Costanza even works for the Yankees. If I'm not, yeah, he works for the Yankees. Is it very plausible to assume that the people who wrote the Bible, man, could have just been writing about things that they actually saw that actually did exist, and they just wrote allegories? You know, that's all I'm not. Again, I don't know. I'm just saying that it's very plausible to assume that locations and institutions such as the Roman Empire, maybe the people who wrote it were actually writing about the things that they actually saw, and just adding allegory or stories on top of it.
Do you find it strictly allegorical? Is that
I
what
don't
you're
find the
saying?
Bible
Or
no, of course not. I don't find the Bible
oh, okay,
strictly allegorical. No,
okay.
I find it as to be one of the greatest mysteries in human, at least in human history. It is. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. So
I have
you don't
faith.
you're not okay, you're not saying that strictly allegory. Okay, that's
No,
cool. I mean,
again, no.
listen, I could align with both what you and Miss Oshun said. I agree largely with both what y'all said, right? It's just I just was confused if you were saying it's strictly a fantastical book of whimsical fairy tales. Like I'm like, come on,
I'm
family, we
not
can't
saying
do
that.
that. Okay,
I'm
okay.
just saying that it could be that we don't really know what exactly happened back then, but I'll give you this. When I was a kid, I used to ask a lot of questions in Sunday school. Maybe Jesus was an alien. Maybe he had technology from the future. I don't know. But if you just look at what he did, I mean, how did he feed 5,000 people? Maybe he did, but maybe he used a replicator. I don't know. Maybe walking on water, maybe he has some sort of technology that, that we don't have. Or that,
But chaotic. What's
I
interesting is Jesus did say he's done nothing that other people can't do, and in the future he projected that people will do greater
greater
things than
things.
what you've seen him
Yep.
do. So he's not saying this is something that I do because I'm the son of God or because I'm special. He essentially, whoever was writing that did not understand in his perspective what was going on. They're writing from a third eye view what happened, but when you read the actual text, it's like Jesus isn't saying that this is hard. It's just a matter of knowledge. And like he said, my people, what did he say? My people perish for a lack of knowledge, and that's what he's talking about all the time.
And I gotta say this, and I think it's in Proverbs or Psalms, says ye are all gods.
Right. That's Psalms 82.
Yeah.
I say,
So
ye are gods, you stand in the congregation of the gods, but you
yeah.
shall fall, surely you shall fall like men and
I
die.
mean, yeah, I mean, imagine back then, right? Thousands of years ago, how stupid people really were. And then maybe Jesus was just far more intelligent than some people. So maybe that one of the reasons why he appeared to be greater than people. He was
He
just
was ahead of his time.
yeah.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
Well, I mean, but there are like they said, there are other, even the Bible reference it. Enoch after the hierarchy of Melchizedek, you know what I'm saying? So they, even the Bible references people who had the same powers as Jesus had. You know what I'm saying? Now other people call it Gilgamesh or call it so forth and so on. There's a lot of stories of antiquity that seem the same, of a virgin birth and you know what I'm saying, of a immaculate conception, and he did this and did these miracles. So there's references all throughout the histories of the world, right? All over the globe that speak of a story similar to this that predate that story, right? So I could give credence to that as well, right? But I don't, when you say an alien, I don't know about
It
that,
just
bro.
means his origins are obscured, and there's too many cultures that tell of a great teacher who was not human, but he looked human. There's too many cultures that say their civilization even was started by someone very similar to Jesus in a different time period even. Like just can't you can't discount that either. Just like we're not discounting the Bible.
Rush.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you would probably use those words to describe Yeshua, because I guess the miracles he performed and so forth. But it's the scriptures is in specific details that he is the son of God, quote unquote, the God himself. And what makes him so prominent within the scriptures is that you can't see the pearly gates unless you go through him. I mean, because from the beginning of time, when we fell off, we were once God's enemy. I mean, and the Redeemer is the sacrificial lamb, which is Yeshua.
Well,
So
Rush,
yeah, I could. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I don't like to debate religion ever, right? I just
Right.
would like to ask a couple of questions. Like I don't debate the Bible. I don't debate religion, right? I just don't do it.
Yeah.
At the same time, that sounds a little cringy. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? I'll try to get around it, but it sounds a little cringy, brother. I can't even front. I can't even hold you. Much love to you, and I appreciate you inviting me. And I don't want to offend you or disrespect you in any type of way. I just would like to offer a couple of thoughts and maybe ask a question or two, right?
All right.
Have you noticed that even in see first of all, like we have to understand, like when I was taught about studying the Bible, right? Study to show thyself a workman that needeth to be a workman to be approved, that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, right? When I was trained to study the Bible, right? They told me there's 5 references, right? First, you got to understand the tradition of the time. Then you have to understand the language of the time, right? You have to understand the geography, right? There's a lot of different things that you have to understand before you break it down. So we know that first, that whatever those scriptures were, they were in Aramaic, then they were translated to Hebrew, then they were translated to the Voltaire or to the lexicon, right? So they
It,
were
it, it,
translated,
it was translated into the Vulgate Latin language,
right? That's
and
Voltaire,
then yeah, and
and then
then
lexicon,
a lexicon, and then you know
English,
English. Yeah.
right,
So
right. So
right.
so
So I get where he's coming
Wait,
from with this.
hold on. No, no, let me
All
finish. Let me finish.
right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Let me
ahead.
finish. So when you break it down, right, there's translations, but even in all of those translations, and even though there are no J's and there are no C's in Aramaic, nor are there no J's or no C's in Hebrew, right? We know that then it begins to show up when you get to the Voltaire and the lexicon, and then of course into English. But this is the thing, right? When you get to the whole thing about, let's just go and take it for face value of the Bible that we know today. When Jesus refers to himself, he never refers to himself as the Son of God ever. When Jesus refers to himself, he always refers to himself as the Son of Man. If you just take it on a base level and you just read the Bible for what it is right now, when Jesus refers to himself, he always refers to himself as the Son of Man. In fact, when anybody tried to make it seem like he was special, when anybody tried to make it seem like he was good, he always rebuked them and said, yo, why do you say I'm good? Why do you say there's only one that's good? That's God. It's not me, but the Father that does the works through me, that he may be magnified through the Son, right? So whenever he referred to himself, he never referred to himself as the Son of God. Whenever people were trying to heap praises upon him, he always deflected the praise upon God, the Creator, right? So that's the only thing that I would just suggest and I would just offer, right? And so what I would like to ask, with all that being said, do you believe when you said that people are the enemy of God, right? People are the enemy of God, right? Do you realize that in order to be an enemy, that means that you're on equal footing and equal playing field too? Do you realize that, right?
That's not what I meant, but I see where you're getting at. I mean, maybe the word enemy was a strong word to use, but I mean, you should get my point across. Like, you should understand where I'm coming from with it. Like, because we did what we did, right, and we was a great disappointment to him. Uh, there was a certain time frame where he wasn't really too fond about mankind. Know what I mean, that's all
You
I'm
mean
pointing out.
wait, hold on, hold
Referring
on,
to?
Mr. Oshun. Well, hold on real quick, Mr. Oshun. So you mean the man that he exalted above all beings? You mean the man that he created and gave dominion over everything? You mean the man that he had everything bowed down to him? He wasn't that fond of that man?
because
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 allegedly the wife gave him of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and he did eat, and then
hold
he
on.
got cast out the garden. Is that what that's what we're
That,
referring
that's
to?
yeah, that's what we talking about. You got to understand, because Eve allowed the serpent to beguile her, right, and then made and convince Adam to follow her path on eating the fruit of knowledge. That was a great disappointment to Yah himself. So yeah, he was not too happy that he chose that path instead of following the basic rules when he was in Eden. Know what I mean?
Right, but not too
And that's all
happy.
I'm just pointing out.
Nah, I got you. I
Maybe
got you.
maybe using the word enemy was too
Right,
strong.
yeah, that's true. Right, but I
Yeah,
want to, I want to, I want to clarify for the people. See, some people say, see, when you talk on elevated matters, people think you're ignorant and people think you're dumb, but it only shows their ignorance, right? So this is the thing, right? Guess what? Guess who else is not an enemy of God? The devil is not an enemy of God. He's not an enemy of God. The devil can't be an enemy of God because he went to God for permission by the Bible story. He went to God and asked God permission. The devil, hold on real quick. And so
yeah,
when they say, well, if you're an enemy, why does that mean you have to be equal? Well, you have to understand an enemy is an opposition. An enemy is a dual parallel on the other side of the same coin, which means that it is in fact equal, right? It is equal and opposite, right? So you have to understand that nothing, if you say that God is most high, if you say that God is omniscient, if you say that God is omnipotent, if you say that God is omnipresent, you have to understand that there is no other being that is supreme like that. He is the supreme being, right? All alone, all by himself. The devil is not even his enemy. The devil has to bow down to God and has to prostrate before God. He allows the devil the reign the same way he allows us the reign to do what we want to do. Now there's a day of Yamaka or a day of judgment that comes, and then we all will be judged. But God can, but he does not force anyone or anything to do anything, including the adversary. But the adversary, my friend, is not an adversary to God, it's an adversary to us. He's our enemy. He's not God's enemy. And the only power that the devil has is the power that you give him because you are little g, and you are in fact you are equal and opposite of the adversary. So I'll just say that. But you're not equal and opposite of God. You are made of God, so you can't be an enemy to God.
Um, I
yeah,
wholeheartedly agree with that. Go ahead, Rush.
yeah. Let me just say this. Yeah, you're right in that sense. Because the adversary's not on the same level as Yah himself. Is he's not an an enemy towards the Most High, which I never really pointed out. That I was just saying that we were a great disappointment to the Most High. You know what I mean? I guess using the word enemy was a strong word to, I guess, get my point across. Um, and yeah, and it's funny that you say that man is really adversaries towards the uh, the adversary, because in scriptures it says that in due time the elect that's reigning with Yeshua, right, they will have the capability of putting judgment on the angelic beings. So it's funny that you brought that up. But yeah, go ahead, Oshu. Go ahead and get your point across.
Um, okay, so and I want to say for the listening audience that this is not a religious debate. Similar to Chaotic and Izzy, I'm not Christian. You see what I'm saying? But I have a great appreciation for Christianity, even the Bible, and I separate those two things. I don't equate the Bible with Christianity. I just don't. But this is not a religious debate, but it's more of a philosophical debate in terms of understanding religion and the Bible through different viewpoints to understand truly what the individual needs to get from it. Essentially, that's what that is. This isn't a forced conversation. When you talked about, well, God basically being disappointed, right? I have read in the Bible where it reads where God lamented or regretted making mankind. However, I've always questioned that verse because that verse doesn't align with other ideologies in the Bible, which goes back to what I said. This is a book written by many different people in different time periods. To say God regrets a thing, regrets making a thing, you're lowering God to that of a primate that can have feelings of regret because we make mistakes. That's not what the creator is. The creator is not a thing that regrets making and then has to pull back and figure it out again and then come back and try and like that. Like, I think you missed the point there, right? But let's suppose that did happen. God regretted making mankind. Well, did God regret making gravity? Gravity is an adversary of all things. In order for your body to maintain its shape, it is an equal force moving on it as an outward, pushing outward. That's what the adversary means. Like, look at everything in the Bible. Every story had an adversary pushing against the person, right? A situation, a person, something. Even sometimes animals, okay? Like, there's always something there. So without that, would we even have a story? No. So when the Bible says, God said, I create the light and the dark, evil and the goodness, right? God essentially is saying is, don't take any of that away from me. I created Adam and Eve and the adversary that put them in there, and I did that for my purpose. God is not upset at the adversary being there, so why would God be upset that Adam and Eve failed, if we're going to go with that narrative, to do something? Like, God created the purpose of them having to win or lose. Like, God can't be upset that they lost or they won or they were somewhere in the middle. That's not what God can be if we're going to keep in alignment with what God is based on the biblical narrative. So that's why I said everything in the Bible is not like one-to-one. Sometimes you got to overstand. You see what I'm saying with some of these verses? And I mean, with that, I'm not taking anything away from God, but I don't believe God regretted making mankind. I think mankind was put on a trajectory when they were created, and they maintained their purpose. I think God put that fruit for whatever purpose in the garden so they could eat it, to put them on a greater purpose. Because I don't believe God's purpose for humanity was to begin with Adam and end with Adam. Because keep in mind, Eve was an afterthought. Eve was not supposed to be created according to the Bible. She was there after God created Adam and tried to mate him with other things. She was a gift, literally. He was God. She was not the idea. Women were not technically supposed to be created according to the Bible. So it's like, does God hate women? That's not what it's saying. So I'm saying I don't believe that anything in the Bible is referring to regret. And again, we can look at the Bible through the lens of the literalism, or we can overstand it for truly what it means in real time. In real time, God doesn't want you to just be perfect. God wants you to go against the grain. God wants you to iron sharpens iron. God wants you to feel failure and then feel what it means to go against that feeling of failure to be a winner. That's the cycle of life. So why would God not want that? Why would God feel regretful that that is a cycle that exists? God created this cycle. So what, it hates itself? Like, again, we have to kind of understand these things. Like, and that's what I'll say about that. Because that word Satan, people hate the word Satan, but they love gravity when it works for them. I don't know.
I have to make one comment. I identify as a Christian, believe it or not, Miss Oshun. I did grow up in a Christian church, Christian household, Baptist, by the way. And the older I've gotten, the more I realize that, remember, the Christianity is it's an institution. It's an institution. And it's an institution of, buildings that provide a space for you to congregate with fellow Christians. Is also an institution that has been instrumental in creating educational institutions. Many of our earlier educational institutions in America were founded by the Christian church. Hospitals, philanthropic organizations. And one of the main reasons why, Ms. Oshun, that I identify as a Christian, and I know you weren't, you had just said I wasn't a Christian, but one of the reasons why I identify as a Christian is because I have seen what Christianity has done for the planet. If it were not for Christianity, Ms. Oshun, I would be throwing a spear somewhere in Africa. And it's the truth. I believe that Christianity is one of the greatest civilization bringers to the planet. I mean, just think about this for a minute. Now, everybody says that. Listen. I got a degree in African studies from Kent State University, and I know all about
You
the
need to get a
mystery.
refund.
I was quiet, Izzy. I know about all the mystery. I know about all the mystery schools. I know about a lot of the story of Anubis and all that. But one thing that these earlier religions did not do is create an institution behind spirituality, meaning that the Egyptians had religion, or they had a concept of spirituality, it seems, but they didn't expand upon it. And it appears that they didn't do anything with it. They didn't expand their language. They didn't expand their architecture. They didn't, from my knowledge, right, from what I know, they didn't build hospitals, do works of the very same.
Yo, my bad, man. My
I was
bad. Go
quiet,
ahead.
Rock.
I know. I'm
Rock,
up.
I was quiet. I mean, Rush, I was quiet, Rush. So the thing is that the reason why I identify as a Christian is because what Hinduism, Buddhism, Shaoism, all these other isms didn't do is they didn't have a global impact on the planet. They didn't look at this tribe right here or this group of people right here and say, God damn, they are primitive. What the? They didn't. Only, in my opinion, I got to give it to Islam to a degree, but Christianity did it at a far greater scale. And we're talking about arts, literature. We are talking about a host of things that Christianity has done as an institution. So every day I sit back and think, man, I'm not saying anybody else, but I would literally have a plate in my lip and believing in a tree as a god if it wasn't for Christianity. If you really sit back and think. So
Go ahead, Izzy. Go ahead.
Yeah, hold on, Miss Social. Yo, it's interesting, right? Yo, you're hilarious. I gotta give you that. You are hilarious, yo. Now, I can't speak to the fact that you would have a plate in your lip, and I appreciate you personalizing that to yourself. So I can't debate that. I do agree that you probably would have a plate in your lip. So I'm glad you got.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm glad you got Christianity, and I'm glad you got Caesar Borgio. What's his name? I'm glad you got him. You know what I'm saying? Your white Jesus, your sweet white Jesus. I'm glad you got that. But let me say this: that it's astounding, right? Really, what you're talking about is people who used religion, quote unquote, in order to conquest and take over and in war against other people. They came as wolves in sheep's clothing, and you're celebrating the fact that they did it better. They were more tyrannical, and they did it better than anyone else. Now, it's interesting that you're talking about the architect of mathematics, the architect of science, the architect of medicine, the architect of all arts, music, literature, and then you say that they didn't create anything. So we all know that these people created medicine.
Go ahead, sir.
They created medicine, your guy, was it, Hippocrates? You know what I'm saying? Learned from the Kemetic mystery schools. We still to this day, they cannot even duplicate the mummification process that preserves the body beyond any scope of anything that has ever preserved the body before. They still can't duplicate it. So for you to make it seem as if, yo, they came and Christianity came and they gave us medicine, they didn't give us anything but conquer and war and lies, right? They came and they conquered in the name of Christianity. They did the Crusades. They took over. Yes, they were warlike. Yes, they won in war. Yes, they were causing war on people. But anybody that knows anything knows that that goes against everything that the New Testament of the Bible teaches. That goes against everything that was supposed to be the tenets and the basics and the foundation of Christianity, so to speak. Because the Old Testament, the first books were the Talmud, right? So they were supposed to be the old Jewish laws, excuse me, the old little hat laws or whatever the case may be, right? But we know that the Torah, the Talmud, whatever you want to call it, right? But we know that the New Testament is supposed to be the tenets and the principles that Christianity is based on, and you're not supposed to and do an eye for an eye. You're not supposed to delete your neighbor or delete. But we know that they use that as a system of oppression, as a system of tyranny, and as a system of conquering. So when you say that, oh, these other places weren't great, no, they just were benevolent people that were interested in math, interested in science, interested in the world and in geography, interested in astrology, in the stars in the sky. They were interested in medicine. They were interested in things that went beyond conquering and war and taking over. So that's you're doing these people an extreme disservice to make it seem like they weren't capable. They just didn't prioritize destroying people and destroying other people's civilization. You got it.
Well, so I've never been to Egypt, right? But I've known a lot of professors and a lot of my friends have actually gone to that, and I'm talking about Cairo, right, or wherever the ruins are at, right? And these are actual pictures from the hieroglyphs, on the walls. It is completely inaccurate that other people were not warlike. Um, a lot of people don't know this, and Miss Oshun, you can look this up because this might even surprise you. You should look up Chinese history and look at the amount of wars that these people have had for a thousand. Don't even go back to just go back 1,000 years. See how many battles and wars that these people had. The movies, all these little kung fu movies, I like them, but they make it seem like China was this unified nation. No, it was not. No, it was not. You should really look up the history of those people, and you will see that the Chinese have been warlike for 5,000 years. You should look up images at Rush was talking about Nebuchadnezzar. The Babylonians, oh, they were absolutely warlike. Sir, other people were just too stupid to expand the way that the Romans did. And I'm not calling them stupid to be, arrogant, but they just probably had higher IQs. They probably had a greater vision, et cetera, et cetera. What I am saying is that I consider myself a Christian because the institution itself speaks for itself. I just put 4 hospitals, two that were founded almost 1,000 years ago and 2 that were founded in the 1800s. I put it on the screen. The Christianity speaks for itself. Think about all of the people that have been healed and catered to under Christianity in terms of with their hospitals. Think about all the people that have been educated in their educational institutions, Harvard, Yale, etc. So I get what you are saying, Gizzy. That's fine. I also learned that Imhotep was the first mathematician, but give me the institutions that still exist in terms of hospitals, philanthropic organizations, schools that exist from the ancient mystery schools.
Okay? That's easy, right?
Go ahead.
What do you have to take? What do you have to take in order to be a doctor? A Hippocratic oath, right? Where did Hippocrates learn his craft from? The Kemetic Mystery School. That's easy, right? So even beyond this, and I like how you tried to take it to China, which you and I both know that the Hekos, which is an Asiatic tribe, were one of the first people to conquer the Nubians in Egypt. So it's interesting that you tried to take it to China instead of leaving it in Egypt, right? And when you showed on the walls, right, you showed the dark skinned people and you showed the lighter skinned people and you showed them people battling. What most people don't understand, not that particular one, not that particular one, that particular one, right? You see it, right? What most people don't understand is that the Hekos, who were Asiatic, who were also like us, but lighter. Some of them were lighter in hue. You know what I'm saying? Of course, than you, probably about my complexion, a little lighter, right? They were the first to conquer Egypt. They came from Asia. They was an Asiatic tribe. So there were many tribes that came to Egypt and were warlike. But the Nubians in nature were not warlike, looking to conquer and take over. Now, you could argue that the Moors were, that came from a similar region of that took over Italy, that took over yo, again, first of all, you got people talking about the Egyptians were Europeans because they're talking about Ptolemies. You got to understand there were many dynastic times in Egypt. So just because you see, and this funny that you keep putting this stuff up. Just because you see people on the walls, why you putting your cousin up there, man? I don't understand. Like, why do you keep putting your cousin up there? I don't want to be close to your cousin. I'm not African, brother. I come from here. I'm a Moroccan. Brother. I don't know why you keep putting them people up next to me, man. I come from here, man. My people come from here, brother. This is my land. So what are we doing? But
Can I interrupt?
yeah,
Izzy, are you finished?
let me bring home because he keep trying to distract me. He trying to be funny. But it's interesting that you keep trying to deflect, you keep trying to deter, and keep trying to put this in. But you want to praise the white man, so I'm gonna let you praise the white man by any means necessary because you love the taste of the white man's balls. Go ahead, Miss Oshun. You got it.
Now,
Since you want to keep putting up stuff instead of allowing me to finish my, you wouldn't allow me to finish my. You kept distracting me, putting up that crazy stuff on the thing. Go ahead, Miss Oshun. You got it. Underhanded tactics, sir.
Okay. So okay, I'm gonna say this. When it comes to expansion, chaotic, and this isn't to say that Europeans haven't won. Generally speaking, I think they definitely have won the technology war. That's why they are in power today. That gave them the catalyst to spread their culture and or religion. So we can't dismiss that. So even if we want to say, well, Christianity won, Christianity didn't win. It's not a thing that can win anything. It rode on the backs of people who had an imperative that had nothing to do with religion. Just so happens where people go, they take their religion. However, the religion of Christianity on Europeans looked a lot different than it did on the Africans it originally descended on. In the more older cultures, and this is just from what I know, and I have been to Cairo and a few other places in Egypt. From what I know, religion isn't religion to indigenous people, especially older cultures. We can Religion is very different from Europe. Europe is an institution. In other places in the world, it's more of a way you come to decisions. It's not really an institution. It's the way you live your life. It's how you think. It's not something you are inducted into. Like your culture is what you're inducted into. This is why we have rituals. So religion is different in the rest of the world. So therefore, if your religion is your spiritual connection, and that has a lot to do with your lineage, why would you expand your religion to any other group? In fact, you would want to keep it to yourself. But amongst most African groups, for instance, it's hard to separate their quote unquote religious systems because it's spiritual based and it basically is the same thing just in different languages. So there's no need for, let's say, West Africa to war religiously with East Africa. It's just no real reason to. But if you want to say, for instance, well, in Islam came in with the conquest, right? Well, that had a lot to do with politics. Most Muslims know everybody didn't convert to Islam because they were just peacefully talking about, the Prophet Muhammad. Some of them had a knife to their neck saying, if you don't pay proper taxes, you will die, and or you will have to convert to Islam. That is history. So it's like when we say, well, Christianity is the reason why, it was so spread so wide, and it's like, no. It was political ventures. Let's not give that credit to religion. People had an imperative. People were winners, and it just so happened their religion came with them. I don't want to put that on the religion as much as I want to put it on people. As much as Alexander the Greek, I don't want to say Greek, but the Greek is hated. Every culture wished they had one of him up there. So it's like he was great in what he did. He was a general. And what he did in Egypt, for instance, putting himself up on the wall, putting himself in their religion, and seeing himself doing their rituals. He's consecrating himself. That is something somebody who is great does, not a religion does. He can go into any religion and consecrate himself. It doesn't matter the religion. We're talking about him. So I don't want to give credit to Christianity because, truth be told, like I think Izzy was alluding to, everything in our culture stems from the oldest cultures in the world, and it's not Christian nations on top of that. Some of our English language, as new as the English language is, goes all the way back to Central Africa. Like, seriously, like I've watched many documentaries on and studies on how the European languages, Asian languages out here derives all the way down into the oldest cultures. And as much as, for instance, the word merc, right? In our colloquial language, it means to delete someone. In one of the more ancient languages, it literally means to delete someone. Now, have I talked to somebody from, let's say, 3000 BC? No. Just so happens my language is a derivative of that language, and we still have a connection there. It doesn't mean that they conquered me or anything like that, but where people go, they take their culture. So I don't want to say, well, for instance, and chaotic, you might know about this, is some of the indigenous religions from West Africa came over through the transatlantic slave trade. It doesn't mean that the religions of West Africa were great because it spread across the Atlantic, like during the transatlantic slave trade. Like, that doesn't mean that.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Miss Smith? Mm-hmm. And I appreciate your scholarship. Right, shout out to you. Do you how many, or what is the percentage of so-called black people that are here right now would you attribute to the transatlantic slave trade versus that were already here? What are your thoughts on that?
I've always believed that it's hard to give that number because the records were so miscued. They were calling people black or African American that literally had no genetic tie to it because of their skin color or because of a status. Like, I've seen one white woman or Indian woman claim to be Negro. She literally was from India, like in one record. So it's hard to tell who they just put that label on because that label was a status. It was a social status, and the records make it hard. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I think there is a significant portion of African Americans that are indigenous to the Americas. But I'm gonna be honest with you, there is more evidence that indigenous African presence here, or black presence here, had its roots in Africa prior to the conquest of the Americas by the Europeans. Like, there's more than enough evidence to prove that there were maritime cultures that came to the Americas from indigenous parts of the world before there was any conquest going on. It was just exploration. Right. So I don't know.
Yeah, okay. That's a good. What are your thoughts on that, chaotic?
Again, you guys are entitled to your opinion, and you could be right, and I could be wrong. But I take this. I take the ground that 99% of people on the planet, maybe even more, were savages and living in a primal state. And Christianity civilized. I'll even argue even Islam to a degree civilized most of the planet. And whether black people were here in America or not doesn't really mean anything. The blacks here or the blacks in Africa didn't do anything. They were just running around with spears and plates in their lip. And the beauty of this institution is it well, hear me out. You asked me my opinion and question. In my opinion, Christianity civilized the savage black African. It civilized other groups of people on the planet. And so did Islam. I mean, I think the largest Islamic country on the planet is Malaysia. It's one of these Asian countries. Imagine how primitive and savage they were when the Muslims got there, and the Muslims gave them civilization. I really believe that. I really believe that.
But
That
who do you think were the original Muslims, and who do you think were the original Christians? Like, what do you think that they look like? Do you think they look like Europeans?
um, to be honest with you, yes, I do. I really believe.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
a question that no,
I'll pause. I'll mute while out.
I really believe that the African, for the most part, other than maybe the Egyptian, didn't really do anything in the history of mankind. To be honest with you, I really believe that for some reason the whites or the people that you call Europeans, yeah, I really believe that. I mean, even like the Arabs are considered white. Yeah, they. I don't know what it is about their development in human history that seem to have progressed, whereas like darker people, the natives here, Indians in East India, for some reason they just didn't develop at the same pace. They didn't develop for some reason. I don't
So
know.
how come they can't duplicate any of the monuments? Like they can't duplicate a pyramid. How come? How come your white man, your European can't duplicate a pyramid?
The
How
white man
come he can't
duplicates.
duplicate?
Oh, you asked me a question, then you
Yeah,
then you
yeah. How come he still hasn't figured
the
out
white
the
man duplicates.
mummification process? How
Why
come
would
he's
because
still
mummification may not be something that's practical. And in terms of your pyramid question, the white man duplicates pyramids every single day. The white man literally builds in concrete. He literally builds in steel. He does greater works than the pyramid, which is nothing but
when?
niggas. All they did was just put some blocks on top of each other for
When? That's they
now,
never
Izzy,
duplicated it.
Izzy, hold on for a second. Now, I'm not debating with you. I'm just answering your question from my perspective. Okay, I could be wrong, right? The pyramid, in my opinion, and I said this even when I was younger, it's nothing but a nigga who buried himself in some goddamn bricks. Ain't shit. Why would they want to rebuild that? That's a major waste of resources, a major waste of whatever material that they would use. They could build that shit right now. Look at what these people build now. The Burj Khalifa. Come on, man.
Wait,
These
wait.
people
So
building.
the astrological alignment has
Oh
no
man, I know.
significance.
Yeah,
So so
I
so
know all about that stuff with Sirius A, Sirius B, as
so
above,
that
so
has no
below.
significance, right?
No, bro, that's bullshit, man. It's just some shit that these niggas made up. It's all bullshit. It's bullshit, bro. Think about the narcissism it takes for you to for you to have some niggas build this stupid pyramid or these stupid pyramids for 20, 30 years so that you could just be buried in it. That's the most narcissistic shit I ever heard in my life.
Can I say something, right? Because
Please, please.
I've been to the Great Pyramid at Giza, and I'm gonna tell you, like when you stand there, you understand why every white scientist is pouring over Africa because they're trying to find out how it was built. How it was built. When you look at the pyramid, you think it's just rocks. It's not just rocks. It's not. There was no technology on the planet that could build that at the time. Now, it's my opinion that that pyramid predates the city states of North Africa. There were no Africans as we know them in North Africa when that pyramid was built. We're talking about before the Ice Age, the last Ice Age, when
But
Africa was under 3 miles of ice in the sky. That's when that pyramid was built. So when we say, well, Africans have built a lot. But I'll be honest with you, even our culture today, We're primitive in comparison to that pyramid. Very
Well,
primitive.
that's your opinion. That's your opinion. I got to pick up it's like you got a lot of feedback, Mr. Ocean. Well, that's your opinion. In my opinion, I think that the mega structures that we have today, like all the dams, the seaports, God knows all the skyscrapers. I think that our structures today are far superior than that dumbass than these stupid pyramids and those stupid sphinx. I think that shit is just some primitive stuff. I just look. I don't look at it with the same reverence as a lot of people do. And even if it does predate, modern African city states, etc., or excuse me, even if it does predate what they are saying, what did they do? What? Okay, so they built these pyramids. They built three pyramids. They built pyramids. Okay, they built pyramids. But what about right now and what we have in civilizations right now, in our civilization right now? What about the practicality of our buildings and our structures? What is the practicality of three pyramids? Just a nigga just buried inside of it?
There was no one buried inside of it. It's not a tomb.
Okay, well, okay. If it's not a tomb, what is it?
That's why it's an enigma, because
Okay,
nobody knows what that is. We just know it's a structure. We can't figure out what it was meant for, but it was meant for something. We just can't figure it out with all our technology. Now, that's not to say that Africans have not done great things. Even Europeans have not done great things. But based on the technology that went into that building, there's nothing on this planet that rivals that building for whatever reason. And it's not to take away from what the accomplishments we've had in the last 200 years. It is a very great thing, and Europeans have also been a part of that, contrary to popular belief. But let's say a word straight. Like, come on, let's give credit where it is due.
Like I said, we all have our different opinions, but I think that the Gate Bridge is far superior than the pyramids.
CT, I have Down syndrome after listening to this bullshit. This is just absolute lunacy. This is black people having nothing but their skin to relate their egos to, so they need to find something that they actually can unify around. They have nothing, and so they're going, okay, let's try to find any way we can to make black people any significance in history. That's all it is.
What are you talking about, Imperius? Go ahead. What do you mean?
Oh my God, yo, the level.
Well, it's funny that I just heard somebody say they were 3 miles high in ice. So so the ice age piled ice as high as planes. 15,000 feet. Do you think there were ices? Do you think there was 15,000 foot high? Do you think there were 15,000 feet high icebergs?
Yeah, wow. That is, yeah,
Okay,
that is
sir.
You people are stupid. You guys are the uneducated blacks that everyone laughs at, dude.
So why don't you drop so that you don't have to succumb to the uneducated blacks?
Damn.
Because you know what? I like lecturing morons.
Okay. Well,
first of all, the thing is, we
hold on a second. If you guys rush, Imperius is, if you guys want me to drop this racist bastard, I want to keep him up.
Nah, keep him up. Keep him up.
But
yeah, we can civilize the savages. Hey, we love.
Again, he has no epistemological reason to know why racism's wrong. Explain to me why racism's wrong. Explain to me why racism's wrong.
Hold on, family. The first thing is, if you're gonna be up here with us, then you have to have decorum. We already taught you civilization once, but allow me to teach you civilization again. Okay, you got to have decorum to come up here and converse and have a conversation with us. All right, you should be honored that we're even taking the time to speak to you. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm gonna allow the sisters school you first, and then I'll come thereafter. All right.
Okay,
yes.
So stay on mute until Oshun is done, because now that I think about it, I am a runner. That is 15,000 feet. God damn. So, Miss Oshun, are you telling me that there was ice 3 miles high?
We've been through 2 ice ages that we know of, and there are different opinions of how high the ice was at the last ice age and or the ice age before. However, no matter what your opinion is on how high the ice was, how thick that first ice layer was, the point is the pyramids date back to a time when there were no people physically in North Africa. Like, that's where it dates back to. So this is why I said there's different opinions, and my opinion is that that building was not built by the ancient Egyptians. That's just my anecdotal understanding. But this is why, because it comes from a time period where we can't really justify how were you building buildings out of stone, limestone like that under ice when we were in a circumstance that we couldn't be worried about building if we were in today. If there was an ice age going on right now, nobody's worried about building a bridge. Nobody's worried about building buildings. We're trying to stay alive. So it's like, and if we don't have technology, this is why that building is such an enigma. But at the end of the day, it's not about taking away from the great accomplishments of China, of Europe, of any of the Americas, of Africa. It's not about that. What it is about is to say that, listen, everybody hasn't contributed the same thing in technology to the world, and nor is it supposed to be that way. I don't like it when people say, for instance, well, Europeans came up with, certain, technologies, but the Chinese had, gunpowder first. Well, what is gunpowder without the technology to make it make sense? That happened.
What is the reason why gunpowder?
Hold on, Paris. She's almost done.
Yeah, I'm almost done. You can rant when I'm finished, okay? And like he said, you're here by grace. We don't really have to have you here, so chill out. All right, I'll be quiet when I need to be. At the end of the day, and chaotic, I appreciate you saying, hey, Christianity has done great things for people where other things have not. That is true to a degree. Christianity has played its part in history as it's supposed to, but let's not take away from other religions, other systems and cultures that played their part, even if it's smaller. Let's not take away from that, because everything makes the whole. As I said earlier, the base is the base of anything. It's not the entirety of it. And I'll mute right there.
Okay. And Paris, go ahead.
This is all just coping nonsense. Looking for actual history to reinforce the point you've already asserted to yourself. Blacks have had no effect on history whatsoever. Okay, let me explain why. Okay, number one, they never explored or conquered or colonized anywhere outside of their fucking continent. As such, they didn't have any relation to anybody else until other people dominated them. So they have no legitimacy. They have no effect on history. They've literally been the fucking manual labor for every race in this fucking world. Like, why are we, like, I'm sorry. Like, and this is the thing. You talk about racism. The only thing that you guys have talked about here that isn't racist is the Catholic Church. Since you know the word Catholic means universal. And you know that the first Catholic actual church was in Ethiopia. You understand that, right? You guys don't know anything about anything. You guys sit there and try to look for because your own egos are so invested in nothing but the color of your skin. You will look for anything in history that tries to raise that ego because you guys are at the bottom of the barrel now. That's it.
Okay. Does anybody want to respond?
Of course. Yo, stop muting me, man. Of course, I want to respond.
I was muting you.
Don't mute me. No, I didn't interject. So please don't mute me again.
Okay.
All right. I didn't interject, so don't mute me again.
Okay.
So now, number one, it's interesting, right? You just said that the Catholic Church started in Ethiopia. And last time I checked, Ethiopia is a derivative of the word Abyssinia, which means black, right? So it's interesting that you said black people haven't created any culture. They haven't added anything to history. They haven't added anything. I already told you, which has been proven, that your heroes of Greek descent and of Roman descent have got their knowledge, their wisdom, and understanding for so-called black Socrates, right? Studied in the Kemetic.
How do we know that? Where's your evidence?
Excuse me.
Hold on. Now, I'll let you speak, and everybody was quiet. Hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead, Izzy.
So we already know. First of all, they're going to say, "To thine own self be true, know thyself," right? And those are already on the pyramids in Egypt. It's written on all the pyramids in Egypt as you enter, right? So that's number one.
Where is that written? Because that's not written on the pyramids. So I'd like you to cite.
It absolutely is written on the pyramids. You don't know what you're talking about. It absolutely is written on the pyramids. The pyramid of Giza, the pyramid of Thebes, the pyramid. It's absolutely written on those pyramids, on the front side and on the back side, as a matter of fact. So that's number one. Number two, the amazing thing is this. She already told you. Now, I don't agree with her history of the pyramid, but that's okay. I won't get into that because I have to address you. You talking about maritime culture. the Moors were the daggone navigators that traversed the globe. We already know that Europe had what was called the Dark Ages. The Renaissance, or the Age of Enlightenment, didn't happen until after the Moors were there, and they brought music, they brought art, they brought history, they brought agriculture. They brought architecture, they brought science and mathematics. It's already been proven. That's already historically a fact. If you go and do a Google search of the Moors, and you will see that they took over in Italy and in Spain from the year 711 to in and around the 1500s. Okay, so there you have it. Now, some would argue that because of that was the reason why the edict was given by Queen Isabella to send the people to the New World in order to start that, and that's why they took the so-called Africans of the time and those few and brought them over there. Some would argue that that's the reason why, but it's already been proven. There were people here, like the sister mentioned earlier, like I was alluding to earlier, that had already been here for centuries in these lands. The so-called Indians were already here. They look like me. They look like the sister and the brother and like the other brother. They don't look like Chaotic because we know where he come from, right? See, and then you can even look at us, not trying to be funny, but you can see that our phenotypes are different. We don't have the same phenotype as an African for Africa. Our phenotypes are much different. So when you say that the so-called black man, and it's so-called, because we know that black is not a nationality. We know that black is just a color. But the so-called black man hasn't created anything. The so-called black man has no mark in history, has no type of mark in the world. You're absolutely mistaken. First of all, in Russia, the Madonna is black. Baby Jesus is black. Second of all, most of your architecture, even in Washington, D.C., was created by black people. Benjamin Banneker, did the architecture, which was a black man, a so-called black man, for DC. So I can name I can name many technological advances in America that has a so-called black people's DNA all over it. I don't even have to go to antiquity, but I can if you like.
Okay, Imperious.
Okay, number one, this guy, you said, thine own self be true. Is that what you were saying is on the pyramid? What quote is on the pyramid?
Know thyself, sir. Know thyself.
Yeah, that's actually from Shakespeare. Hamlet, Act 1, verse 3.
He's an idiot. Yo, I can't talk to him. He's an idiot.
No, you can't talk because you don't have anything to say. Get back in your slave cage. Get back in your slave cage. Get back in your slave cage.
So you don't know that I've never been in a slave cage, but thank you. I appreciate you.
You're already in the slave cage people like me have made for you by living in this society and obeying. So obey. You already obey. You already obey.
I appreciate you already obey. I appreciate you showing your further ignorance. But the interesting thing is this, that Shakespeare was predated by the Nubians in the Kemetic mystery system.
Yeah, except they didn't write that. So check some archaeology.
They didn't write.
Say check some archaeology. What are the four tests of historicity? Do you know? Do you know what the four tests of historicity are?
What didn't they write, sir?
Do you know what you know the four tests of historicity?
What didn't they write?
Again, just a black talking. You don't even know how to test to see if something's accurate. How do you test to see if something's accurate? How do you test to see if something's accurate? How do you test to see if something's accurate? How do you test to see if something?
Monkey boy, what didn't they write? You monkey, what didn't they write? Monkey, little ape, what didn't they write? You uncivilized, uncouth savage, what didn't they write? That's what I thought. See, the thing is, y'all a pussy, right? Y'all straight pussy. Y'all can't outwar us now. I dare you to try it now, right? You can't outwar us now. You can't outshake us now. You can't outthink us now. You just try to use a system of oppression to try to hang on that. And see, this is the problem. You have ignorant people who haven't created anything, who are not of any superior intellect, and they try to tell you something and try to put something on you. And Chaotic, this is on your hands, brother. The blood is on your hands because you spit this rhetoric that allows these monkeys, these prehistoric prepubescent people to be able to say, yo, in history, they are less than 10,000 years old, and they're talking to their father. They're talking to the original man, and they're trying to tell us something.
Bless you.
This is a God blessings. This is alhamdulillah. This is a prehistoric. We are a prehistoric people. These people are new to the land, new to the culture, new to this, and they are babies trying to tell us about something. They don't know anything. But you, my brother, you are to blame because you sit here and you spew this rhetoric. You got these white boys walking their baby nuts around here thinking that they did something and they ain't do nothing at all.
Go ahead, Rush. I mean, this is your show.
I mean, I guess whoever that guy was speaking before Izzy, I guess he's kind of like over the top, But yeah, like I mean, what? I guess we're not gonna agree on everything, But I do understand that our ancestors have contributed, with medicine and
Oh, poi ti cavi da anche l'uomo che vuoi
you know, and chaotic. He can be a bit.
Again, this is just blacks looking for something to have some significance to. This is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I would like, again, how is it that Shakespeare was the first recorded person having the saying, but there's no pictures of anywhere on the pyramid that you can pull up that has that saying? Why do you think there's 3 miles high of ice? You guys don't even know reality. You guys just say anything to make your...
Imperious. Okay, I'm sorry to cut you off, Imperious. Miss Oshun, can you describe how and when and why there was 3 miles of ice? I know you said there were 2. Graham Hancock talks about a lot of this stuff. Can you explain to Imperious why you believe that there were 2 ice ages? I don't know why he just won't respect you.
Wait, but before we come on, Chaotic. Before we get into that, can she at least explain to him where he could see right now where it says "Know thyself" on the pyramids right now to this day? Can she explain that one? Because the ice age thing, I don't even agree with that, and you know what I'm saying? Because as far as they got dated so far, the pyramids are thousands of years, if not maybe 100,000 years old. They say on record 4,000, almost 5,000 years old, but we know that's older than that. But millions and millions of years, that's debatable. So can we stick to what we can prove right now, which is you could go right now and you can see right now where the pyramids have "Know thyself" on it right
now.
Can
I ask you real quick, what language is that written in on the pyramids where it says "Know thyself"?
The language is in the ancient, what they call Kemetu language, which is what we call hieroglyphs, which is Greek for ancient carvings or ancient writing.
So let me get this straight. Okay. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just trying to be neutral here. So the hieroglyphs are pretty much like pictures, right? Mm-hmm. So is it like a bird, an alligator, and a snake underneath that says? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, how do you guys know this? Respect.
So here's the thing. I'm not an expert at reading what they call the Neteru, which is the language of the ancient Egyptians. I'm not an expert at that, but I will say that Izzy is correct from what I saw when I was there. And I didn't go into the Great Pyramid. I went into some other pyramids. I was there on a educational trip. And I didn't even go down into the other cities further, quote unquote, north but south for us, where that statement is also carved. However, that statement it's not so much that it's carved anywhere, but it is a part of the ancient religious order within Egypt, that before you can know anything, you have to know yourself, period. Like that right there permeates, and I don't even think that comes from Egypt, honestly. I can find that ideology in more ancient parts of Africa. So when he says you guys didn't say that, and our scholars wrote that, here's the thing: their scholars did write that yesterday, and I think that they should keep reading that shit. But this is why I don't care about what he says. because the saying is not for Africans, it's for humans. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of. Our culture is not for us. Our culture is for anyone that has knowledge and a will to apply it, period. So I'm not concerned with where it's written, because like that's a European issue. Who wrote it first? Why you didn't expand and conquer? That's not our culture to be running around killing everybody for every reason. Like, granted, we might fight amongst each other, but that's just not what we did. Like, Europe got their little personality, and then we got ours. Like, we really not y'all, and we ain't trying to be y'all. But it's
And
like, you
listen,
see how he's acting on this stage, trying to relive his grandfather's, like, plight. That's not me. I'm not trying to live my grandfather's plight, who enslaved them first. And I'll be honest with you, their quote unquote slaves were their Slavs and their women first. And let's not talk about their culture for real when it comes to what they accomplished, because they accomplished some other more embarrassing things first before anyone else in the world. Let's not talk about that. Right now, the topic is not about Europe. It's not about European history. It's about understanding where we are in terms of the aforementioned concept of understanding religion. I think Chaotic Truth made it clear that the conquest of the world, he says, was the catalyst that religion was spread through, and he gave credence to Christianity. And I said, no, don't give credence to Christianity, give credence to the people. Like, the people come with their religion. That's what we're talking about. We're not disparaging Europe for their accomplishments. We're not disparaging Africa for being one of the oldest cultures in the world. Why? And that he doesn't know himself. To sit there and talk about our cultures and say we've done nothing, literally, we've done nothing but give birth to humanity and taught them how to wash themselves. Like, we've done nothing, because he can go to Africa and see people still living in the old ways. They're supposed to be like that. They're an older culture. We are the new kids on the block for a reason. So I don't go and disrespect older cultures because my culture is premised on everything new, as in this year. I don't do that. And that's what I'm most proud of about my culture and my people. We don't do that shit. And that's something Europeans could probably take another look at about themselves. Like, stop that shit for real. It's not
Can I
cool.
add this? Can I add this real quick? I put. Can you play this real quick? This speaks volumes. It just happened not too long ago. It speaks volumes, and I know my brother's been patiently waiting. I'm gonna shut up so he can get in. Can you please play this real fast? Oh, do I need to play it? My fault.
Scan has one more surprise for Alejandro. Shammai's ethnicity.
Well, they have just told me that Shammai had Nubian features, which means that their ruling family was probably Nubian, and that was unexpected.
Examining Shammai's anatomy closely, the thickness of his bone and the shape of his nasal cavity, the anthropologists think he was a black African, likely from neighboring Nubia. A huge revelation that challenges the prevailing image of the Egyptian ruling class.
We always thought the ancient Egyptian elites were Mediterranean type, and in this sense, Shammai is representing the society of the frontier, in which different ethnic groups were mixed.
Your white man said it, Chaotic. Are you ready to?
I don't even know what you're trying to prove to me. I don't know what you're trying to.
No, don't worry about it. Go ahead, brother. I yield the floor to you, my brother.
Go ahead. Let's get up on the view.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Gentlemen, salute. It's unfortunate Imperius ran away. I've been trying to get this brother to slow down and have a conversation forever now. This dude is just in and out. It's like when you turn the lights on and the roaches just be scattering, you know what I mean? Like, anyway, I'll leave that alone. Hope everybody having a good one, positivity and light, to take a word out of CT's book. Rush, come on, I really mean that, man. I want everybody to have some positivity. Oh, I thought he was rolling his eyes. Anyway, just to get back on topic real quick. I mean, I don't know where it's y'all so all y'all jumped over to a bunch of different stuff. I don't even know what to jump into at first. Like I would say this is something I want to ask CT the other day. Like CT, how familiar are you with the history of the Huguenots?
I know nothing. I never even heard of that word.
Anybody on the panel familiar with the history of the Huguenots?
Not too familiar. Not too familiar, but you can enlighten me.
Well, I'm not a Huguenot expert or anything, but I'm sorry, brother Izzy, I didn't give you an opportunity to.
No, you good. You got the floor, brother. You've been waiting patiently. You got the floor.
Huguenots. I'll put a link in the back. But anyway, the long and short of it is the Huguenots, or French Protestant Calvinist revolutionaries, would in the earlier times be known by the name of Sephardims, who would in earlier times be known by the names as Moors. We gotta start acknowledging more history. And 1 second, y'all. We gotta start acknowledging more history, because this compartmentalizing of history and everything is black and white, and Africa and America's here and Africa's there and England's over there, and nobody mixed and mingled, and only people of dark complexion are from Africa and people of light complexion are from Europe. And when we gonna get past this? This is such a juvenile way to talk, and we such old folks. Like, I don't know about y'all, but when I get up in the morning, my knees be hurting sometimes. Like, I know I'm not a child, but like when we talk about these things about our histories and the history of the world, we talk from like such a childlike perspective. Like we still in 6th grade, and the teacher gonna give us an F if we don't recite the stuff from the textbook exactly like she gave it to us. Like when do we grow past this? I guess is what I'm wondering overall. And then I like to talk about the histories of a few people. But like, let's start there. When do we grow past this childlike perspective on history?
You gotta when you still have people who look at things from a very narrow scope and a narrow point of view, you have to speak in language that they understand. You can't go to elevated perspective and start speaking on higher vibrational things when the people that you're speaking to don't understand basics. If we were talking to a person that literally said black people, so-called black people, haven't added anything to history at all, and you are my slave and do what I tell you to do and obey. Like just even that. If you don't mind, I apologize. Just real quick. Let me give you a brief synopsis of the history of America. The crazy thing is this. What he obviously doesn't understand is all white people in America didn't own slaves. What he also doesn't understand was that the 13 colonies was a very small percentage of this landmass that we call North America. And even in that small landmass that we call North America, only the southern region owned what they call quote unquote slaves. I can't, I can't. Okay. Why would you do that, man? Why would you, come on, chaotic, man. Why would you do that? Your backdrop, brother, we can't. So you understand that their understanding is very limited. His understanding is very limited in scope for him to assert that just because he's a quote unquote white man that he necessarily owns slaves is kind of ridiculous. And this is the biggest farce that ever been pulled in America, is the fact that they made the average white man feel superior to the greatest black man, so-called black man. And therefore, that's how this thing gets perpetuated. And then he asks an ignorant question like, what is wrong with racism? Why? Can you tell me what's wrong with racism? Like, I would dignify that with a response. But go ahead, brother. My bad.
Nah, you good. You actually, alluded to a lot of stuff that's very important when you talk about the fact that the colonies were very small slivers of each state that they were in. They weren't actually the whole state. You have to wonder who were the people around them in the states. Were those people just a bunch of savages living in mud huts, as CT likes to allude to, or were there any actual? You see, that's what the boule do when they try to get you. They throw that bread and circus at you to try to change the conversation. But anyway.
Can I
But
can I speak to the savage word? I want to be honest with you. I think, and I don't know who would agree, but it's always been my opinion that Africa was overtaken, not because of brute force, but because they were too accommodating. They were too mild in their attitude. They were too welcoming to visitors. And this is why they faltered, because they didn't understand that all folk ain't kin. And in their culture, if you come to them and you're human, you're their brother. But in reality, that's not what happened. And so when people say, well, y'all was savages, I'm saying, well, hold on. Your great, 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 great grandfather, when he was walking in West Africa, didn't feel that they were savages. He just felt like these are some people that really know how to work. Like, they didn't see them as savages. They seen them as something that I can benefit from. That is not the same thing. To say that we are wild people because we don't live as you or we don't dress like you is to say your mind as a culture has not been developed. And I agree with Izzy. Why speak to anyone like they are on a certain level when they have clearly shown you that they are not at that level? Why speak to them that way? And as Jesus said, cast your pearls to swine. Why do that?
Ghetto.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of great points being dropped here. What I would say is that a lot of, like she said, you do got to give the babies milk. You can't give them the heaviest concepts right away. You do got to walk people through things. But I'm just wondering, as adults, when do we desire to know better? You know what I mean? They say, what's that saying? When I'm a child, I do childish things, but when I become an adult, I put childish things away. So like, when do we put the childish notions of things away, or are some of us just doomed to be perpetual children forever while we get on these platforms and like bang our chest and carry on like we really know more than we actually do?
Who when you say we, are you referring to the people on this panel?
I'm referring to people that get on the panels, period. Like, there's definitely been, as I stated several times, a bunch of good gems dropped here. Not everything I agree with, but just like I'm sure things that I'm gonna say, not everybody's gonna agree with here. But that's the difference in what different people study and different perspectives where people come from. The question is, will we prove all things and hold fast to that which is true, as the book says, or will we just be more stuck in our emotions and the if we like the person who taught us something, will we hold to that and to the emotions of how much we like the person who taught us it versus the actual information we're being presented that could be contrary to that? A lot of times when we like somebody, even if what they taught us was false, we'll hold to that more than we'll be willing to listen to something else, because we might not like their attitude, we might not like where they come from, how they look, how they talk. So we'll push past what they saying, even if it's merited, because we'll start attacking the person and leave the points alone.
Well, in the example of the individual that came on this panel and totally interrupted our vibe and conversation to assert himself as the authority by way of people that have literally sexually assaulted everyone on the planet, including their own women and each other historically. He wants to come with that attitude and spew lies. I don't think anyone on this panel, for instance, did anything wrong. In fact, the fact that black people as a whole have been through enough to say, hey, yeah, we have a reason to have at least an attitude. We all can sit on this panel, including Chaotic, and hear him say what he's saying and let him talk and then feel the need to speak civilly to him. I think that speaks volumes to who we are as a people versus them, and who's a child culturally and who's not. Now, granted, individuals may be childish, but here's the thing. We will never be perfect, and I don't see why, as black people, no matter what continent you reside on or come from, why do we have to be extra perfect in order for us to be? We are regular people. We have regular issues, but one issue we don't have is caring about people like him and what they got to say. I'm not trying to prove anything to him if he's not trying to listen. I make the statement because someone asked me a question that had some sense and I answered. Now, I might be wrong. I might be right. It might be a little bit in between, but at least we on the panel having the conversation about, well, what happened, for instance, my claim that the ancient pyramids were not built by North Africans at all. It came before anyone was populating the area that we know of. That's my opinion. I'm not saying it's a fact and you're not on my level because you disagree. That's not what we're doing here. But people will tell us that we're slaves while the first slaves were their own women. Like, this is craziness. We have a reason to feel vitriol against people, but we're still here like the civilized people we are, despite what you want to put on us. So, I mean, when people say, well, you let words trigger you, listen, you don't know what triggered is because your culture hasn't been through much to sit and talk about who's triggered, okay? And that's all I'll say about that. I seen someone in the chat saying, you let words trigger you. No, it's a history that triggers people. But the fact that you don't want to respect it, but you want to sit and come on people's panels and interrupt and be disruptive on top of that. Because I could see if he came up here and said, you know what? Respectfully, you guys think too much of yourselves. I could see him saying that. And then I would say, how much is melanin worth on the worldwide market? Right. When he said your skin color. Sir, the chemicals in my skin is worth more than your whole family. Stop it. But did I say that? No. So I don't care about the savage word that they want to give us. We will be savages as far as I'm concerned. Let them continue saying that. Who are they for us to, you know what I mean, care about in that way? Who?
No, I definitely I'm sorry, yeah, what you about to say?
No, go ahead.
No, I definitely see what you're saying in that point. But now you see, this is where things can get a little frayed, because when you say like the history, that's one of the biggest things that I think is the problem, because so many of us, maybe you are an exception to the rule, and brother Izzy here as well. So many of us don't actually know our own personal family story, and we are very engaged in being enraged in this collective history that we don't necessarily know if we personally shared it.
Real quick, I have one question for Miss Oshun. Miss Oshun, you said the white man was going throughout the world raping women all throughout the world. That's what you said, right? When the white man went over to Australia and saw the Aboriginal women, was he raping these women too? No, I'm just being serious. I'm being serious. These are how Aboriginal women look. I just want to know, the white man who comes from the land.
Hey, you seen Captain Kirk, didn't you? You seen Captain Kirk. You seen Captain Kirk, didn't you?
That's sci-fi. But
you know he like green.
No white man is.
Appears. Give me a second. Give me a second, Appears. Miss Oshun. So the white man who comes from places with blue-eyed, blonde-haired women, he see the Aborigine women like this. He's raping one of these women. Keep it real. Keep it real.
Yes.
Chaotic truth. You already know that sexual assault has been weaponized throughout history by several different cultures. However, European culture, with the expansion of Christianity, when it comes to slavery, okay, sexual assault has been weaponized, as it has been historically weaponized. But they have done it the best,
Let me answer
the worst.
Yes.
Hold on. Miss Oshun, I showed you a picture of two Aboriginal women from Australia. Do you believe that anybody's going to rape those two women?
I believe
rape
that
is not about attraction.
Right, it's not about attraction. And rape, I'm sorry, not rape, but rape happens from man to man, well, whatever, okay? And the fact that you're putting them there to say these women don't look like they're worth having sex with.
No.
Like, that's not what it's about. It's really not about that. It's not.
Rape is never. Wait, hold on, real quick, Mr. Oshun. Rape is never. Hold on, real quick. Rape is never about attraction. It's about a power dynamic. It's about a power dynamic and overpowering. So the answer to your question is absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. They did that to them and people who look like them and people who look worse than them. Because rape is not a matter of physical attraction. It's a matter of domination, and it's a matter of suppression. It doesn't have anything to do with attraction. Stop it.
CT, can they explain where their moral foundation comes that rape and racism is even wrong?
I'm out of it.
Oh Lord, no, we're gonna let you answer your own
Exactly.
question.
No, because you feel
So
it's wrong, right? So it's wrong.
You say grape.
Why is rape and racism wrong? Please explain your epistemology of why it's wrong. Or you don't know that word either. Sorry, it's a white word.
Yo, it's a white. Yo, first of all, come on, man. This
No,
man
you
is-
come on, man. You're trying to fucking
this
elevate
man-
yourself on bullshit.
elevate. Well, family. You know the funny thing is, you have already showed your ignorance.
I've shown that I'm better than you in every way. Yes, I have.
You're not. You're an avatar. You don't even have the courage. Hold on. You don't even have the courage of your
Everyone
conviction.
knows.
Hold on. You don't even
again,
have the courage of
I
your
don't have
conviction
to. I make more than you,
show
and I have
your
some.
face.
Again,
You
I don't have to.
even have
The fact that I can
courage
come
of
on here and
conviction to
own you
show
as an
your face.
avatar makes it
You
even
haven't
funnier.
owned
I can
anyone.
own you
See,
as an
the funny
avatar.
thing, you
It
haven't
makes it even
owned
funnier. Makes
You
it even
don't own
funnier. It
anything.
makes it even
That's the
funnier that I
problem.
can be.
You don't
I
own
don't even have to
anything.
fucking
You don't
grace
own
you with my presence. I don't even have to grace you with my presence, and I'm better than you.
Yeah,
I don't even have to grace you with my presence, and I own you, just like I owned you 300 years ago.
You know, first of all,
you were born in
the fact. Hold on,
1990.
exactly. First of
No,
all,
you
the
guys
fact.
want to play. You guys want to
Hold
play
on,
feelings games, and you guys want to play
first of all,
feelings games, and I'll rile up your nigga
The fact
feelings.
that he thinks that he's 300 years old is hilarious. Yo, my
No, my
brother, I think,
family's
hold on,
1,100 years old. Sorry, no,
okay,
my
so the
family's
fact that he
1,100 years
thinks that
old.
he's 300 years old is hilarious. The fact that he
1,100,
thinks,
1,100, my friend, 1,100, 1,100.
the fact that without even knowing my family history, he thinks that he owned me.
I know
or
you
owned
because you're
anybody.
nothing.
You don't
You're
know.
on
You don't
here
know
as in
how.
a baseball cap, looking like a trash.
This is
I
not
don't.
a baseball
One
cap.
of my kitchen
It's not a
suits,
baseball cap.
one of my
This is
Brioni
not a
suits
baseball
cost
cap.
more than your fucking
Oh, your
house.
Brianna.
Get out of my
God.
face.
No, hold on.
You got a wait.
$2,000
You got
Brioni
a
suit.
right. That costs more than a house. Is
Hold
he
on,
serious?
guys, real quick.
Yeah, look up a kitten K50. Look up a kitten K50.
Sir.
Hold on, may I real quick?
Yo, man, come on,
Okay,
chaotic, man. Take that off. Chaotic. I'm about to be out, man. You doing too
just
much.
one question real quick for Miss O'Shun.
Chaotic, man. Come on, chaotic.
No, I'm being serious.
Yo, brother Rush, is this chaotic show? I didn't know that this was chaotic show.
My show, bitch. It's my show, bitch.
It's your show. Oh,
Yo,
okay.
no, my
This is your
bad.
show. I'm definitely out.
Chaotic, man.
No, I'm
Chill,
definitely
man.
out. I didn't know this was chaotic show. I didn't know that this
No,
was.
yo,
I don't want to do that.
Go ahead.
I'm not
Go ahead,
doing
do
that.
your thing.
I'm good.
Come on, nah. Don't be like that. Good, you good, man.
I mean, I don't want to do the name calling for real because it's already triggering to sit and have to listen to that. If he feels the need to call grown men out their name like that, that's treating him with more respect than what he really deserves. It's like, as a woman, what do you expect me to do on this panel? But
okay, we're not going to bring him on the panel anymore. So, Imperius, we'll get you some Taco Bell. See you tomorrow.
Yo, but chaotic, man. You putting these white women up here for what? Like, what are you putting these white women up here for?
Miss O'Shun said that the white man was going throughout the world raping people. So I brought up a photo of Aborigine women to ask her, did the white man rape those women? I wasn't debating with her. And the reason why I brought up the white woman here, give me a second. I'm being serious here.
No, I don't want to see your family.
Okay.
Come on, man.
Okay,
What
the reason
doing?
why I brought up the white woman is that you have, let's be honest, places like Sweden, these women are just walking around. So I hold on for a second. I just, in my opinion, I just believe that a lot of that graping stuff was over exaggerated. These men come from places where they have models just walking around. So that's just my opinion.
Chaotic truth. Let me be honest with you. There are some women that are European that are very beautiful. I don't think any black man, white man, Chinese man is going to lie about that. However, to sit and act like all white women are models and like, come on now. And here's the thing: to sit and act like white men care about how anyone looks when it's about power, they historically have raped men. Like, seriously. Like, why are you so stuck on how someone looks versus the power dynamic that we're talking about?
No, I'm being serious. I'm meeting you halfway. Hey, Rush, did the white man ass fuck one of your ancient your great grandfathers? No, I know. I'm Miss O'Shun, you said this. I'm just asking the men on the panel. Are you aware of any of your ancient or your great uncles or great grandfathers getting fucked in the ass by a white man, Rush, or his get up point of view, or Izzy? Yes.
Yo, not mine personally, but at the same time, it's a documented fact that they used to grape. Hold on, it's a documented fact
You
that
might,
they
you
used to
might be
grape.
talking
That
about
they used to
backbreaking.
grape men too. That's a documented fact that they grape
Did
men
any
too.
of
Yes.
your family members that you know of, was he on his knees and a white man walked in the room, stuck his penis
You
out?
being disrespectful,
I'm
brother.
not. This
Yes,
is
you
what
are. You being
I'm
extremely
not. This is what
disrespectful,
she
bro.
said.
You've been
I'm out of here.
extremely
I'm out of here.
disrespectul.
I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
All
Bye.
right.
I'm out of here.
Yo,
No,
to
because
talk
one
about
of
the
the things
ancestors,
was
talk
that
about my
you
ancestors,
said
and talk about to
Miss
think about one of my
Ocean,
ancestors
Miss
being treated in
Miss
that way. That's
Ocean.
disrespectful.
That's not
What
disrespectful.
tribe are
Miss
you
Ocean.
from, brother?
Whoa.
That's
Correct me if I'm
disrespectful.
wrong here. Miss
Izzy, what tribes are
Ocean,
you from?
out of
My
her
people are
own mouth,
Cherokee.
said that black men were
So
raped
what
by
does
the
that have
white
to
man.
do with
I'm
Africa, bro?
asking
No,
black
I'm not
men
saying.
on the
He said that he's not talking about Africa.
I'm
He's talking about
black
the
men.
indigenous. He's talking about
Okay, just
indigenous
your
people
point of
here.
view.
But that's
Do you
disrespectful.
agree with Miss Oshun on this? Just yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay. So here's the thing. It's okay to.
That's what it is, right?
Okay, chaotic truth. It's okay to disagree, but as a woman, I know historically that women were not the only gender that was sexually assaulted over the course of 800 years.
Okay.
I know that. I know that white men historically have shown that homosexuality has been a part of their culture as long as they have had culture. Okay. I know that. So here's the thing. I'm not overly concerned with proving what men and that men are sexually assaulted. I think everyone listening is an adult enough to know who and what was associated with sexual assault. But what I am saying is this. What I'm saying is this: power is not always. It doesn't always come through the means that we think it comes from. Sometimes power can be forced on people through things like sexual assault, through things like housing, through things like disease. Okay, like we know that. And here's the thing to the Aborigines of Australia. Okay. How many of them is left now that white men have?
There's still a large population over there.
How many are left?
I have no idea. It's in the millions.
Not nearly as much as what you think. Okay, seriously. And when you say millions, I mean authentic, full-blooded, like Aborigines. How many are left?
It's 980,000.
How many are left in comparison to when they found them?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Okay, so if you have no idea, let's be clear about something. The conquest that you're talking about of white people happened. And it didn't happen. Hold on, chaotic. Hold on. Wait a minute. The conquest of Europe happened through many different means. And like you said, Christian religion, religion was one means that the Europeans, their conquest was actually favorable, meaning that they accomplished what they set out to accomplish. So let's not be disrespectful to our ancestors or any particular gender.
Okay. I'm not being disrespectful. I am meeting all of you halfway on this. Rush, do you believe that Frederick Douglass was getting fucked in his ass because he was a slave? Do you believe that a white man fucked him in his ass?
Come on, fam.
Yes.
But see, but hold on. Get up. Wait. Hey, brother, when you listen, when you was talking about the conversation, my brother, right? And
I gotta mute you, bro.
No, you was talking about the juvenile conversation. How more juvenile? Hold on, stop, K.
Hold on for a second. How am I supposed?
Man, you gonna drop me? I'm out, man. You gonna die? He dropping? How more juvenile can you get in this conversation right here, brother?
Being juvenile, Miss Oshun literally said that the white man went throughout the world raping people.
Yo, Rush, I appreciate you having me up. Man.
Why can't I ask the men on the panel?
Chill. Izzy, chill.
Man, do you think that Frederick Douglass was getting face fucked by a white man? Do you believe that, Rush? Do you believe that his ghetto point of view? Do you believe that a 6'1" nigga has some white man coming in some room that happened to millions of these black men back in the day? That the black man was that much of a bitch that he let the white man face fuck him.
Chaotic. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't chaotic. Chaotic. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on. Chaotic. Stop. Listen, it is only chaotic. It is the year chaotic. Please. It is the year 2024. The fact that sexual assault has been legal upon certain groups of people up until maybe under 100 years ago, and I'm being generous with that. You should stop and ask yourself. People like what just hold on. Stop. I I am saying to you that yes, women were sexually assaulted the most. But let's be clear about something. Women were not the only ones sexually assaulted. And the fact that you're going to allow white people or people from Europe under this construct to get away with what is historically documented, says a lot more about you than it says even about their sexual assault. Because sexual assault, to some degree,
if black women really believe that,
believe what?
None of not you for a moment. Let me put you over here. Like an echo. If black women truly believed that white men were raping them, you wouldn't have all these black women in these relationships with white men. I wouldn't want to be with no white man if I was a female and I knew that these people did all these horrific things to my ancestors. But I'll tell you something that's even more fascinating. I believe that the black woman threw herself upon a lot of these white men the majority of the time. And how do we know this, Chaotic? Well, all you gotta do is
look at a huge history of gigolos.
All you gotta do is look at history now. Look at this bitch Maya Angelou. They had us believing that this was a pro-black woman who cared about black people. This bitch was a nasty whore. She was a prostitute, madam of a house, and all she did was marry white men. This was in the 70 years ago. You can't prove to me. You listen, let's be even more completely honest. Black women ain't the most least desirable woman on the planet. Ain't no white boys doing anything to no but no white boys even think about black women most of the time. Is it safe to assume that they didn't think about, is it safe to assume that they didn't think about some nappy-headed Harriet Tubman looking woman back in the 1800s either?
How many memoirs have you read about American slavery?
Give me one. What was a bed wench? Wait, what was a bed wench?
Name it.
Okay, hold on. Right now, it's called Project Muse. It's specifically talking about the sexual abuse of black men.
I bet a white.
Hold on, wait a minute. I'm not concerned with who wrote it. But what I am concerned with is the fact that the people, men specifically, unless chaotic. If you don't want to listen and have a legitimate conversation, I don't have to speak. As a woman, I know what women have been through, and I know what men have been through. I don't have to speak if you don't want to.
Trick you niggas into believing that y'all were getting sexually assaulted. I don't believe that shit. And the fact that Russ, his ghetto point of view, it's funny when you ask a black man, hey, black man, do you believe that your great father? Hell no, that happened to my family. Hell no, I heard it happen.
Chaotic. I just told you.
Somebody then.
Chaotic. I explained to you that there has been many memoirs written about this subject from slaves themselves, first-hand accounts, not second-hand accounts, first-hand accounts. Okay, we know historically. Okay, if you don't want to listen, okay, a memoir. Do you know what a memoir is?
Ma'am, I know exactly what a memoir is. That means
chaotic, chill for a second, okay? Because you're too emotional about this, as if you have a point to prove. Like, I don't understand the point is, what the point of you being over emotional is. I'm telling you that several memoirs has been written about that specific subject matter that you can read that will further elucidate the culture of what happened in America many years. And let me be honest with you, there's several types of memoirs you can read. So let's not act like they're not there. Let's not act like we have not heard these stories via these memoirs and other means too. Let's not do that. I'm not here to force you to believe anything. What I am here to do is to let you know that as black people, we are fully aware of the assault that certain groups have had on other people historically, and because of that, our attitudes reflect that history. So what we're not going to do today is apologize for knowing what these people are historically and knowing who we are historically. And I'll be honest with you, if you want to ask me, hold on, do I know people in my family that have been sexually assaulted? Both of my great-grandmothers and great-grandmothers were sexually assaulted by white men on plantations, okay? I have great-aunts that are mixed race as a result of that, and I have men in my family that have issues with taking on children that are not theirs because they had to suffer through their wives being legally sexually assaulted, because if they would have said anything back, it meant certain death. So do not disrespect ancestors that have came and made this country what it is for you to enjoy today through their sacrifice. Don't do that, okay? Do not do that, chaotic.
Tell me something good about Clarence Thomas.
Excuse me?
Tell me something good about Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas, are you asking me to tell you something that I cannot know about someone that I don't know personally? Okay.
I can tell you something good about Clarence Thomas. Hold on, Miss
ancestors
Ocean.
are.
I can tell you something good about Clarence Thomas. He helped push the repeal for the Roe versus Wade. Now what? Come on, man. What are we talking
Well, he
about?
did. He did.
I know, nigga. So now what are we talking about?
I
You
gotta be a nigga
see, you're
now.
not talking to the uninitiated. Now let's talk. What are you talking about?
I gotta be a nigga now. Come on, man.
Because you've been calling us niggas the whole time. You've
I
been a
didn't call
nigga.
you a nigga.
You's a pick a nigga.
I didn't call
You's
you
a pick a nigga
I
nigga.
called a nigga.
You called us niggas the whole time, bro. You don't
No.
even listen to yourself speak. You called us niggas the whole time. You don't even know. You say so much rhetoric and so much foolishness. You don't even know what comes out your own mouth.
His ghetto point of view, do you think that Frederick Douglass had a white man's penis in his asshole?
Man, who cares about that? Yo, fam.
No.
This is
Seriously.
ridiculous conversation. I got better things to do, man.
Frederick Douglass never wrote this? Did he have a white man's penis in his asshole? His ghetto point of view. That's
Frederick Douglass was also
I
one of
would
the
never ever allow
least slave, one slaves I was able to read.
I would
So what are we talking about?
I would never ever allow a woman, black or white, to convince me that the white man was out here raping your male ancestors. Nigga, please.
Yo, fam, are you serious? So you say all of this stuff that you say dedicated to the white man's balls, and now you have the nerve, the audacity, the temerity to talk about that you would never let the
Rush,
what are you talking about?
That, Rush, do you believe that your Haitian ancestors were being fucked in the ass by the French?
Come on, fam. Why are we talking? This is weird, man. It's
weird
conversation.
Man, we're getting raped back in the day. Why not be that descriptive? That's what it is. Rush, yes or no?
Yeah. I mean, no, but listen. Let's just change the subject matter, man. Like, I don't want to be talking about backbreaking and stuff like that.
No, it's not about. We're not really talking about the sexual assault or what we understand as sodomy. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the culture that came over with these people. Period. That's what we're talking about. Christianity was spread through a culture that was spread. So that came up. I forgot how that came up specifically, but for us,
what are we talking about though?
Listen, I'm talking. He spoke about Christianity being spread throughout the world and via white people. My argument is it's not because of Christianity that they spread themselves. That's not why people felt the need to travel the world, because they were Christians.
And doing these acts of violence.
I don't understand your question, sir. What is your question?
Can you mute Miss Armstrong so we can hear him?
Somebody got a crazy echo.
Go ahead.
Is it as the people who did these atrocities that we keep talking about? Is it really just these white people that we like to blame on everything, or is history far more complex than we honestly want to deal with? And that's what I talk about with this child-like way of dealing with history. Who's the rapper? What was it? Lil Baby. He's had the song. It's bigger than black and white. Like, we gotta really stop dealing with this paradigm of everything happened in black and white sectors, because that's not true at all. There were so many people that shared our reflection that owned slaves. There were so many people that shared our reflection that were invading places all around this world, and we don't want to deal with that because we want to be like these people that were so free from any violence of the world. We want to be these people that are like almost. I hate to use the word, but it's like
right. I got you. I understand. Let me ask you something. What other group of people suffered through slavery like what happened during the transatlantic slave trade specifically? What other group of people can you juxtaposition to equally when it comes to all facets of slavery that happened during that time period? What other group of people?
I don't like to do that because everybody's atrocities is bad, but I mean, we could look at the sub-Saharan slave trade. We could look at the slave trades that happened with the Dutch East and Dutch West India Company. We could look at the Senegalese company. I mean, we do understand that these were literal like corporations that came together with the premise of people making money, and these corporations went all around the world, and people that shared our reflection invested in these corporations that made money, right?
We're not okay. We're not talking. We got you. At the same time, what she's talking about is she's talking about chattel and antebellum slavery, which we all know
We
that.
all
Okay,
participated in it. A lot of us
no,
participated in antebellum slavery. A lot
but
of us
hold on.
participated in antebellum slavery.
We can't see your
All right.
books.
Well, this one is the Free Negro Slave Owners in the United States in the 1830s by Carter G. Woodson.
Okay, and how many?
Carter
Okay,
G. Woodson.
got you. Which came to the misunderstanding. He made misunderstanding of the Negro. But yo, at the same time, this is the thing though. We understand that antebellum slavery and chattel slavery. First of all, they took your language, they took your tradition, they took your culture away.
Who's
They
they?
took
People that shared our reflection, or
no, not by and large. It wasn't people that shared your
that's
reflection.
not true. Can you prove
That's
that?
absolutely true.
How
See,
so?
now, okay. So now, first of all, I understand that there were natives. There were natives and there were treaties and natives who owned slaves as well. I also understand that the
That there
natives,
were Europeans that look like you,
no, those natives look like me.
and
Those
the
natives
Europeans
look
look
like
like
me.
you too.
Some of them, yo, like Christopher Colombo. It's Cristobal Colombo. He was one that looked like us because he was
Absolutely.
of Moorish descent.
Was
Which a
he the
lot of
only
people
one, or was there other
no,
ones too?
hold on, which a lot of people don't know. At the same time,
Was his assistants on his boats Moors too,
they
or
were
no?
Moors too. Yes, they were
So
Moors too.
now we
But
talk about thousands of
hold on. But
conquistadors,
this
right?
is the thing. This is the thing though. This is the thing. You got to understand that there's a difference between 1492, right, and the conquistadors,
But did it just happen in
refer.
1492,
Hold
or was it before that as
Can you
well?
let
Hold
him
on.
I'm
Let me
speak,
sorry. Go
finish.
ahead. You're right.
please?
I am being extra. I apologize.
So if you're talking about again, we're going according to the story. So I'm going according to the story, right? All I'm doing is going according to the story. Let's just stick to the story that everybody knows for right now, and then I'll let you tell the further story. But the point being is the story that they tell. I'm on record telling people, and they told me I was crazy. I'm on record telling people that the alleged Christopher Colombo, America Vespucci, those dudes were Moors. They were navigators. They were Moors, and they look like us. I already told people that's how they was able to cohabitate and get in with the people who are already indigenous here because they look like them. I'm on the same accord with you as far as that's concerned, right? I agree.
So then,
Now,
how could you?
hold on, time out.
Just to
I'm trying to bring it. I'm trying to bring it home.
Yeah.
If you let me finish, you'll understand really clearly. Okay, so if we understand that there's something that happened between the conquistadors and the British that ended up taking over in those so-called colonies, and then ended up making land purchases, ended up making land agreements, ended up being what we know as this corporation of the United States of America right now, as we know it today, and the system that we have in place today, the system that has our birth certificates connected to a certain place, that has our social security cards connected to a certain place, we understand that there's a big distinction between that and the conquistadors that you're originally talking about. So that's what the distinction is, and that's why most people point to a particular nation and particular people. Go ahead.
I do understand. You alluded to Christopher Columbus, but what about the Franciscan friars from before him? You trying to say they didn't share your reflection as well? None of the Franciscan friars that came before him, the people that, because France was here first. We do recall the Louisiana Purchase, which was
yes, sir.
20, literally the equivalent of like 21, 22 states of land that was sold. It's not just Louisiana and West Florida. It was literally the equivalent of 21, 22 states of land, because these people invaded from Canada, from what they called New Acadia, and came straight down. They invaded the Micmac people first, the Acadians. Those people then later transitioned all the way down to Louisiana and became what we know as the Cajuns, the Acadians. We saying none of those people shared our reflection? Is that what we saying?
No, we're not saying that.
So then how can it be a black and white thing?
But again, chattel slavery and indentured servitude and antebellum slavery are two totally different things. We understand.
Or are they just things under different titles?
No, they're two totally different things. We understand indentured servitude is the ability is when one tribe takes over another tribe. You have an ability to work and buy your freedom, and you have a time of servitude.
No one in slavery bought their freedom. There's so many stories of slaves buying their freedom.
Fam, you all over the place though. Because again, you are
negating
slaves
buying their freedom. There's tons. There's tons
I'm
of
not,
stories
yo, that's
of
not,
slaves buying their
yo, that's,
freedom.
again, we're talking about, see,
So if they
what
were slaves and
you're
not getting
talking
paid,
about,
how they buy their freedom?
you're
Sir,
talking about an
sir.
individual versus a system. And see, this is the problem. You're talking about individuals versus a system. And we understand that we are under a certain system right now, which I alluded to before. And if you claim to have this knowledge, you should know what I'm talking about. So there's a difference and there's a demarcation there between the system that we're talking about and individuals who own slaves or individuals who took over. That's been going on since ages. That's an age-old thing. Tribes taking over tribes, people conquering people. There was rules, there was regulation, there was codes that went with that. Indentured servitude, whatever the case may be. But chattel and antebellum slavery was not the same thing. And for you to make it seem like that is very, very reckless.
You mean chattel and antebellum is not the same as like an indenture or encomienda or a requimiendo? That's what you mean, right? That's because my position is chattel and antebellum are synonymous with encomiendas, requimiendos. Like that's what I'm saying.
Now, I'm not familiar with
That's just the
those
same
two
thing.
terms.
That's just the Spanish and the French ways of saying indentured servitudes. The requimiendas, the encomiendos.
That's
like
not the same as chattel. That's not the same as
how
chattel
so?
and
Many of the people that had those, they never
antebellum.
got their freedom, right? They just kept getting extended, and it literally just eventually just rolled over into permanent extension.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. So they were raped, they were maimed, they were put on one side of a horse and another side of the horse torn apart in front of their people. Their
There's
language was taken. No, I'm talking about overall.
The language thing. But.
Exactly. So they got to keep their language. Did they get to keep their families intact? Part of indentured servitude, as I understand, part of indentured servitude, as I understand it, is people
the European slaves that came over here didn't get to keep their families
people
intact.
got to keep the part of indentured servitude, as I understand it, was they got to keep their families intact. They got to buy their families out of servitude. They got to buy themselves out of servitude. They got to serve so much time, and then they bought themselves out of servitude. So let me ask you a question. You're saying that the chattel slavery, the antebellum slavery that occurred over here, you're saying it didn't occur?
No, you're a very intelligent brother, and I know you got to move the convo like that.
No, I'm asking you.
My position was very clear, and I literally just restated it for you that the antebellum / chattel slavery that you saying is not the same as the indentures, the encomiendas, the requimiendos. I'm saying they are the same. The black codes that the French wrote when they were enslaved, like, and then that got turned the what was it, the Code Noir, then it got turned into the Black Code. Like there was a reason the system was able to transition and the laws were able to transition. It's because it was the same systems.
But the black codes are not the same as chattel and antebellum slavery. You talking now when you go into black codes now you're talking when you go into black codes now you're talking about Reconstruction. You're talking about after slavery was already over. Black codes were not during slavery.
After slavery was already over.
Black codes, the black codes, as you
which came from the Code
black
Noir.
codes were Reconstruction codes. They were after Reconstruction. They were not during antebellum and chattel slavery.
And the Code Noir wasn't either, right?
I don't know about the Code Noir. I just said the black codes were not.
And
I don't know about
this is what I be talking about. Like
the black codes were not.
We have such a closed-minded perspective on actual history, and it's very interesting when you hear grown folks get so angry about things they can't actually prove.
I'm not angry at all. Actually, I can actually prove. That's easy.
You may be an anecdotal.
No. Let's look. No, because guess what? Words have meanings and phraseology has meanings. So let's look up when the black code started.
You said you're Cherokee.
No. Let's look up when the black code
to Africa.
Let's look. What are you talking about?
I'm asking a question. I don't know.
Let's look up when the black codes started. Okay, this simple stuff, right? Since you want to talk, yo, can you share my screen, please, bro? Can you share my screen? Here you go. It's simple. Like I don't understand. Y'all so disingenuous, man. Y'all just say anything. The black codes, best known of these laws, were passed by Southern states in 1865 and 1866 after the Civil War in order to restrict African Americans' freedom and in order to compel them to work for either low or no wages. Black codes. That's Reconstruction.
Yes or no?
Yo, fam, again, now you're trying to move the goalposts. I
But
just showed
I
you.
literally said
Stop,
in my
hold
initial
on, hold
statement
on,
the
hold on.
black codes came from the Code
Hold
Noir.
on.
Are you just
Oh
going to
man,
discredit that
I'm
just
late.
to sound
Hold
smart and sound
on.
like you right?
Hold on. No, family. Again, I
Wow.
just told you.
I thought it was better combo than this.
I told you the time frame of the black codes. The black codes happened after antebellum and chattel slavery, around the time of Reconstruction. That's when the black codes were
They
put
weren't
into
based on
place.
the Code Noir, which literally means black code
Family.
of the French.
Again,
It
you
wasn't
keep
just a
talking about
transition of
Code
from the
Noir
French
that
to the
I
American system.
already admitted for the 5th time now. I've never heard of Code Noir. I've
All
heard
right. So
of
may
the
I
black
read
codes,
since we
and
reading
I
from
just proved.
Wikipedia? Can I read a Wikipedia entry?
Time out. I've heard of the black codes, and I just showed you where I got it from, and I just showed you what I said was actual facts. So
So may I
now,
read Code Noir since you read Black Code?
yeah, okay, but you gotta admit. First of all, you gotta admit that I knew exactly what I was talking about. You sitting there, you trying to
No,
make it
you
into
didn't,
something
because I
that's
said
not.
one came from the other, and I
Yo,
literally
you
brought it
and
to akin to when
man, this guy.
the
Okay.
French sold
Y'all YouTube people are y'all
wow,
are
okay.
insane, man.
Okay,
I'm not
can
saying
I?
any of this about the French selling
This
it
is
and doing
insane.
Wait a minute. Okay,
the
because
land sale. Did I not bring that out? It's just crazy.
Mr. Point of View, the reason why I asked you, can you point to another group of people that have went through a similar thing, meaning had a similar outcome as well, is so that
I
we can
can.
really see in real.
The Akkadians.
Sir, I
The
listened to you
Huguenots.
talk. Sir, I listened to you talk to him and go back and forth. And I asked you one question, and I'm still here hearing you say basically everything is equal. There was nothing that is outside of the norm for anything. So basically, when this guy here came up on the stage and called us slaves, right? When the word slave comes from Europe, right? He don't feel the need to call nobody else a slave but us, because what
You've
you're
been
saying
talking
is
shit for 2
everyone.
hours.
Excuse me, take him down. Because what you're saying is slavery, antebellum slavery, has been the same for everyone throughout the world, period. So there should be no, theoretically, sir, please let me speak. Don't, when you talk about being a child means not being able to hold yourself together. That's what being that's what being a child is. I sat and listened to you, okay? I didn't like what you said, but I sat and listened to you. I'm telling you that if everything is the same, and there's no difference in terms of slavery is slavery everywhere, and it's the same. Okay, cool, I give you that. Then this man right here shouldn't feel the need to call us no more slave than the Chinese, than the Arabs, than the Slavs, that the Europeans that were the first slaves to that culture. He shouldn't feel the need to look at a white person and not feel the need to call them slave, but call us a slave too, when we all were slaves at some point. Why is it that only a certain small group of people are known to be slaves, if it's all the same for everyone in every culture? You're holding up a book, but I'm asking you in real time to prove your assertion. And right now, this man here is proving that your assertion, it makes sense to you, nowhere else.
And Pierce, can you? I'm gonna bring. You're back up.
It must have made sense to Carter G. Woodson as well, but I respect your position.
We can't see the books. Just by the way, brother, because you have your backdrop on, we can't see the titles of the book. Your backdrop is clouding out the titles of the books, just for the record. We can't see the book. You can't understand that. Like you don't understand basic English now. We can't see the book, bro. We can see you holding up something, but we can't see the title of the book.
My background when you said that, like,
okay,
if you so like I know when grown folks start to get in their emotions, they start to throw insults because they don't have nothing intelligent.
I didn't call you a name.
Like you gotta
call you one name
down, bro, because you wouldn't talk to me like this in person. And let's not.
I would. I absolutely would. I'm not chaotic.
Not walk away the same way.
Listen, I wouldn't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about that, sir.
What is that supposed to mean about me?
You trust and believe. I don't
worry about none of that. I don't worry about that. Listen, you send the threats. I didn't call you. First of all, listen. You've been talking over me. Hold on. I don't care nothing about that. You've been talking over me the whole time. Number one, I didn't call you out your name. Number two. And number three, I'm not worried about none of that you're talking about. Like you're not dealing with a chaotic truth. Yo, you didn't talk to that white man like that called you a monkey and called you every other thing. You ain't told you he called you everything.
I didn't call him shit. I called you a monkey, Izzy. I didn't call him shit.
To that white man, yo,
I didn't call him shit. I called you a monkey, Izzy.
Scared, right? You scared, right?
People who do
got the right one. You scared, right? If you scared, say you scared. If you scared,
people against each other.
If you
black and
scared,
white people were always against each other, they would never would have been a Loving versus Virginia case.
If you scared, jump in my pocket.
Laws into
jump
place
in my pocket, fam. jump in my
mixing
pocket,
and
fam. You
interbreeding.
have
Why
no
is other
problem
versus
going
Virginia
against a
happen
black man that
if
didn't
we weren't
disrespect you
already
at
getting
all.
together
All
in
I said is we
droves?
can't see your
We
book.
were
But
literally
yet and
getting
still
together
you
in
want to
droves.
sit
The
there, you
colonial
want to sit
law and
there
the
and say,
black
I
codes
wouldn't talk to
also
you like
literally
that.
put laws
I
in
would
place
talk
to
to you the
stop
same way,
intermarriage.
fam. I
But
would talk to you the
all this
same
black
exact way.
people, white
The
people stuff,
same
and it's
exact
so
way.
annoying.
Yeah,
Thank you guys
yeah,
so much.
yeah.
Have a great night, man.
You
Read
too.
some
You
actual
too.
books, bro,
You too. I
and pull up
got
on me
books.
whenever
I
you're
got
ready,
books.
man. My
I
face is
got
not
books.
hidden
I
by no
got books.
avatar. My
Okay.
head.
My face
Yeah.
ain't either. Exactly. Sending threats again. Like, what's the purpose? Like, listen, you let this white man talk to you crazy. You've been talking over me the whole time. I was trying to talk. You didn't give me the respect as a man to at least let me finish my statements before you rebutted or refunded. I didn't call you out your name. I didn't disrespect you. But best believe my heart don't pump no Kool-Aid. We're not afraid of anything. So when you say I wouldn't talk to you in your face like that,
Shares
you're
of me.
lying.
That's why you had to silence me, you pussy.
First of all, I don't have any controls over anything here. So
Pierce,
I
hold
don't
on.
know what you're talking about.
Pierce,
I
hold
don't
on.
have any controls over here. This is not my show.
Okay,
What is
Rush.
he talking about?
Rush, what's the next topic, man? Because
What is he? Nah. I'm good. I'm good.
No,
I appreciate you having
CT,
me
I
over here,
want my
Rush. This
fucking
guy, I
chance.
don't have no. Yo, these dudes is wild.
Pierce,
Yo, I appreciate you having me on, Rush. Yo, if y'all want to find me, I'm at Izzy Bands. You know, Real Spill with Mills. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the time. This has been wild. This has been fun. It is what it is. Like, that's wild. That man got excited. He got upset. Like, him got upset. The white man that said everything under the sun about us as people, but yet it's still he want to get upset with me because I said we can't see his book. Make it make sense. That's a little. Did I said we can't see your book because of your backdrop, and you wouldn't say that to me in person. I wouldn't.
Okay, guys.
CT, can I address this?
Pierce, please, just
If
be.
you gonna call me out my name, fam.
Yeah, let's
Yeah, I'll
call
be
him out.
polite.
come on
I'm
my
going to address
channel.
you,
We can have a
CT, first.
conversation.
See, okay, again, it's my turn, CT?
Yeah, go ahead. Address me. Go ahead.
Okay, first, I do want to address CT as being, honestly, I've lost a measure of respect for you, CT, for silencing people because of other people's feelings. I didn't think that's what it was, dude. I thought you had more ball. Look, hold on. This whole panel has been a direct reflection of black fragility.
Pierce, this is Rush's show. If the panelists are uncomfortable or they feel insulted, this isn't my show. It's my channel, but this is Rush's show. They felt a certain way about you using certain words, bro. The same rules on the
and for 2 hours, he can sit there and call white people rapists, murderers, killers, going around the world raping people. No, shut up. It's my turn to talk, fat boy.
Yo, don't tell me to
shut up, fat boy.
Fat boy. Are you stupid?
Shut up, fat boy. Where you
fat boy? Are you stupid? You can't see? I look fat? Are you dumb? You're dumb, right? You're dumb. You can't see. You blind?
Hold on for a second. Wait a minute. How about this? Rush, do you mind if I jump in this real quick? Imperious. It was Miss O'Shoon who said it, and hear me out.
Go ahead.
Now, listen. Growing up, I heard the same thing as well. Black men were buck broken. I heard that black women were great. You being a white man, do you agree or just disagree with that? Because that is something that is actually taught to us in public schools. Now, let's have a civil conversation. Go ahead, Imperious. Go ahead.
Look, I can have a completely civil conversation. I do it every day at work. Okay? The fact is that this panel is a direct reflection of the problem. You have people on here for 2 hours been railing on a certain group of people, telling them how they're the problems of the world, that they did chattel this, and white people didn't do anything. They took everything from black people. But you know what? 1 minute of pushback, and it's cry. And the irony is they cry to the very people that enslaved them to give them stuff. That's the great irony. You're sitting there trying to convince other white people to be mad at white people that do stuff bad to you. That's the giant irony. You can't do anything yourself. Who freed the slaves? 400,000 dead white men, not black people. Who stopped the slavery in the world? The English. They just paid off their debt in 2005. They paid more money back than they made from the slave trade. You guys don't. Again, it's people investing their insignificance in life to something that gives them some inspiration. Instead of looking to God, the actual formation of everything, they look toward their skin color. When as a Catholic, I could care less. If the next pope is black, I'm going to kiss his ring. You guys are pathetic. This is sad. I have people talking about 3 mile high fucking icebergs. I have people talking about systematic gang rapes. Are you kidding? Do you think, let me ask you a question. Hold on. Do you think that the soldiers inputted into the armies of the Habsburgs by the Vatican would allow that to go on and not chop everyone's head off? Like, you guys don't, I need to see documented firsthand accounts that there was actual any of this, because all I hear is, look, somebody make my life better because people in the past that look like me are so mistreated. But the people but you guys, the ones that did everything bad to those other people, now please give me something because you gotta feel bad about what you did. That's all I hear.
So chaotic. I understand that you identify. Hold on. Allow me to retort. Okay. I understand that you identify as a white man. But last time I checked, hold on, chaotic. Last time I checked, my responses were to things that you said. Miss Oshun nor I never introduced race into the conversation. Chaotic truth, you were the one that actually introduced race into the conversation when you started praising the white man and the white man's Christianity as far as taking over the world and making the world a better place and so forth and so on. So clearly what we were doing, where we were trying to educate you on the mishaps of what you were speaking about. Now, it's interesting to me, with that being said, we were talking about World War III, right, brother? Rush, World War III, the implications of World War III in the Bible, how we felt about the draft and drafting and drafted women. So it's interesting, right? Number one, the last time I checked, I looked at Rush, and Rush is a shade or two darker than me. I didn't know that I was speaking to a white audience. I didn't know that I was asking the white man for shit. I didn't know that I was trying to plead to the white man for anything, because last time I checked, I don't do that, right? And let me furthermore say, I don't have a problem with anybody based on their skin color. I treat everybody accordingly, according to the way that they treat me. But you came up here, sir, and you came up here casting aspersions. You came up here talking about the greatness of the white man. You came up here talking about us blacks being slaves and will continue to be slaves. You came up here spewing that venom and that rhetoric. But yet and still, you're talking about you're Catholic and you don't care about, hold on, let me finish. You're Catholic and you don't care about race, which evidently is untrue. You came up here speaking all of that, spewing all of that venom. I don't know you from a can of paint. When you came up here, I didn't attack you. When you came up here, I didn't say anything to you. I allowed you to speak like they did, and you just came up here on the attack. You didn't come up with any intellectualism. You didn't come up here with any facts. You didn't come up here with any proof, historic or otherwise. You didn't come up here with any evidence. And last time I checked, I showed evidence. I showed documentation to prove the things that I was saying. I rest my case.
Real quick, the conversation also went into religion, and I said that Christianity is a global religion and it's civilized darker people. That's why I just want to make that. So I'm okay. That's so.
Can I respond now, CT? Can I respond?
I said that, but would you admit, CT, that you were the one that introduced race? We were not talking about
to a
race.
degree. Yes, I did, but it was also to talk highly about the Catholic Church and Christianity as institutions, and you are correct. I did introduce it. And Pierce, would you like to respond, sir?
Yeah, one, Christianity isn't a white religion. It was started by Hasidic people. Okay, it spread to Africa first, and then finally entrenched in Rome. I don't know what you guys are talking about. This is what I'm saying. It's literal just, I feel bad. I'm poor. I'm weak. I'm at the bottom of the barrel. Somebody help me. Like, what is the argument? You can't, if black people right now started making inventions that made the world so much better and made them the top, I wouldn't be arguing that white people somehow throughout history, I got to manipulate things to find something that makes me feel good to be white. Like, I don't. I have no, you know why? Because, again, if you are a Christian, you should read the Bible and know you are in this world, but not of it.
What is this?
So you should, it's not, again, there are historical realities. White people have just done more. for whatever reason.
Can I speak, please?
Yeah. Hold on. I gotta go soon. So soon. I appreciate you. Hold on. I gotta get ready to go. My show is about to start in a few minutes. Just give me one quick second. My show is it's already documented. Yo, I appreciate you having me up, Rush. Shout out to everybody on the panel. It's amazing, right? Just because the white man is the greatest conqueror on the planet, just because he's taken over things
and inventor and discoverer,
he's not. That's absolutely not true. You can't discover something.
The Catholic Church has discovered everything you've seen.
So how we do? We got, when he was talking,
stay on mute in Paris, because go ahead.
These people have no type of etiquette, no type of panel etiquette, no type of discipline, but yet and still you're supposed to be superior. You don't have any discipline. You don't have any impulse control. You don't have any control of anything. No one said anything about poverty, because clearly I'm not poor. Poor is a mindset, my friend. And if you understood that, you would know something, right? But since you don't know much, we understand your ignorance is protruding. Poor is a mindset. I absolutely don't have a poor mindset. So I'm not poor at all, right? Number one. Number two, you sat there and everything that you spewed out, everything you said has been about race. But then yet and still you say that you don't look at race. It's amazing. Again, Chaotic admitted that he was the one that introduced race into the conversation. We were not talking about race. So for you, and then you're going to say that the white man is the greatest inventor. That's not true. He's not the greatest explorer. That's not true. He is one of the greatest conquerors. Yes, that is true. He is one of the greatest destroyers. That is true. He is one of the greatest grapists. That is true. He is one of the greatest deleters, since you want to go there. That is true. He is one of the greatest grapists. That is true. Right? He is one of the greatest criminal to ever exist. That is absolutely true. But that is your legacy. Your legacy is drenched in blood. Your legacy is drenched in debauchery. Your legacy is drenched in devilishment. But I bid you adieu. Have a good day.
Can I respond now, CP? Can I actually speak now?
Oh,
No. I think I deserve a little. I think I deserve a minute response.
Yeah,
mute this bitch, dude. You can't echo.
Oh, okay. I told you, sir, that this was not my show. This is Rush's show. I told you to stop with the personal insults. I didn't like that. This is not my panel. This is, there's a level of regulated speech over here in Paris, and I told you not to do that. So, Ms. Oshun, I'm gonna apologize on his behalf. He doesn't respect women at all, so it's nothing personal. But did you want to show us something, Ms. Oshun?
Yes, I wanted to share the screen here in reference to the different opinions of the ice sheets, that going back to my thesis about why the pyramids were in Egypt were not built by the indigenous Egyptians or the pre-dynastic Egyptians or even the dynastic Egyptians because of this. If you read here, sir, okay, that your people, your scientists, as well as ours, have made clear that based on their findings that the ice sheets, the last ice age, okay, they dated it specifically. And we have dated monuments to this time period where we can find that the bottom of the ocean at some point was Egypt. Period. So when I say maybe exaggerately that there was like 30,000 miles high of ice, how in the world are people building monuments underneath of ice or on top of ice? I'm being exaggerative, but at the end of the day, you can disagree, but you do not have to come up here and insult my intelligence and act like I'm saying something that has no basis, let alone relevancy to our conversation. I made it clear that that was a thesis of mine, a belief of mine, meaning I could be wrong. But what I find interesting is that my statement here was that we can't discount anything coming from Europe, Africa, China, India, anywhere, because everyone has played their part in giving the world what we have today. I said that, but you did not hear that because all you want to do is talk about race and be insulted. But unlike you, we're not savages, okay? And I'm not calling your people savage like my brother did. I'm just going to say you are savage because unlike him, you're not going to sit here and speak about history. You're just going to talk about how bad you don't like us and how we think we're all that. Meanwhile, you're still here. And I don't know any black men that's going to allow me to complain about black men and then let me sit in the midst of black men, and that's the only place I can find myself while complaining about being around black men. My men are not going to allow me to do that, so I'm not going to allow you to do that. But I, like Izzy, I do have something to do, but I will bid you a good night because I'll be back. But I hope next time I come back, you have a better attitude because you really need to fix yourself, sir. Talking like that, you really do. But it's okay. Continue to believe what you want. We're not here to force anyone to believe anything. We were having a conversation before you showed it. Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna kill this live, man. So let me get everybody's final thoughts. Starting with Miss Oshun.
Okay, my final thought is this. I appreciate the conversation we were having about the different perspectives of how to see religion, how to see history through religion. I do agree with chaotic truth, mainly that I do believe that the biblical stories are allegories that have deeper meanings, but they're not one to one historical events. Maybe a few more so towards the New Testament may have some more relevance historically, but that is my personal belief. Whether or not the Bible is true or not, it has relevance in everyone's life, as well as the Quran and other books in history. I think as young people, and I'm going to say young because we're not senior citizens here, we offer the world a new way to think about religion and apply religion, unlike our ancestors that had a very, in my opinion, crude way of utilizing religion. I think that we have came a long way and we still have a long way to go. But if we're going to talk about, for instance, the last days is a time period that shows a shift. And yes, we are going through a shift. And if every so often, every 2,000 years, the world goes through a shift, so be it. Maybe that is true in the Bible. I'm not saying that the person who said it, I know who it was or who wrote it. I don't. But if it's true, it's true. And that's as much as I can say in reference to that. You know, as far as everything else that we were speaking about, everyone has Google. You can Google any topic that came up tonight to find out who invented what and what time period and all of that. You don't need us to force that on you, but I implore you to do that if you care to know. But if you don't, that's okay too. But that's my final thought.
Go ahead, CT man.
Rush, I actually agree with Miss Oshun on a lot of her talking points because everything is just up for interpretation. And I'm really surprised at her view of spirituality in the Bible. Actually, I didn't know that about her, and I think it makes her very interesting. However, where we come to blows, I just refuse to believe, Rush, that there was systemic ass. I'm gonna be respectful. I just refuse to believe that there was systemic what's the word? Illegalities and coituses of males' rectums. See, I could okay, if that makes any sense. Back in the day, could it have happened? Maybe a few times, but I just refuse to believe it because when you ask the average black man, and you got to be very careful. Hey man, they say that the black man was buck broken back then. Was one of your male lands? Oh hell no, nigga, hell no. So that's one of the things that I gotta say. I just don't believe it. I just don't. But other than that, salute to all of you, man. Even Izzy, I rock with Izzy. He is a somewhat of a kindred adversary of mine, but I rock with him. And I didn't like when Izzy said he ain't CT. Like that sounds like he kind of like punking me, like yeah, like meaning that I won't fight somebody, which I probably won't. I'm damn near 70 years old. I'm out of here, guys. Salute to you all. Rush, you are on mute, sir.
You're muted, Rush. You're muted. Rush,
Thanks,
you
Angel.
are muted, man.
Yo, Angel, man, let me get your final thoughts on this whole subject matter, man, before we bounce.
If Savage Red wants to go before me, I'll give my token to him for right now. I'll let you go before me, Savage Red.
I just came up here to say to CT that his white card has been revoked. He is no longer a honorable white man for having all the Hotepians on here. You guys have a good night.
You too, Savage. All right, Angel, go ahead, man. Let me get your final
All
thought.
right. I came in at the last moment, so and I heard all this talk about like inventors and that kind of stuff, and I see where CT and Imperius stand. At the end of the day, if CT wants to honor the white man, the white inventors, and classify himself as white, then that's his choice at the end of the day. As much as Izzy Bands wants to honor the black inventors. But at the end of the day, we need to honor things just as much as everything else. Like the iPhone that you use every day. Who was that invented by? A white man, aka Steve Jobs. And at the end of the day, regardless if it's a potato chip, an iPhone, or whatever we use on a day-to-day basis, I could care less who invented it as long as I know how to use it and as long as I love it. Because do I love Lay's potato chips? Hell yeah. And I've finished the bag in like an entire day at times. But at the end of the day, I do see where Pierce is coming from, where he doesn't like care, see a race or something like that. But at the end of the day, if someone like Izzy Bands can't honor the white man who invented his goddamn iPhone, then why should CT honor the black inventors at the end of the day? At the end of the day, it just seems like it's a different perspective where Izzy wants to honor the black inventors, CT wants to honor the white inventors. But where would we be without your goddamn iPhone at the end of the day? Where would we be? And with that being said, Apple, I don't use that product, but at the end of the day, a white man invented your goddamn iPhone, but I guess it could care less. But anyways, y'all take care.
I'm gonna give y'all my final thoughts before I bounce. Yo, man, it was a crazy moment in this panel, man. But yeah, man. Hey, man.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Just see y'all's face, man, and hopefully I see y'all open the pearly gates. You heard? Seek wisdom, practice humility, and always remain sucker free. You heard? I'm out. One.